Welcome to the 381st episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. And I've been doing some Marvel's What If from early 80s. I've been doing some off my mind topics. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this week, but it's extra podcast entertainment, and I'm open to requests if there's something like a topic or something you want to hear about. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. Also on Patreon, patreon.com/gmanfromheck, you can purchase some of the extra bonus podcasts by going to the shop tab on there. And I set it at the same price as a ko-fi coffee. So $3, and you can get, extra podcast stuff to help out, support the show and all that stuff. But as I've been reminding every week, if you download the Patreon app on iOS devices, Apple will charge you an extra 30%. So you can, I'm sure if you just go to browser and purchase it, then go on your iOS app, if you wanted to use that to listen to it, should be available. But yeah, so if you're, the money transaction through the iOS app, 30%. So keep that in mind. All right, what is happening on this show? This is, I hate to start the show off like this, but man, it's been a crazy week. Just trying to keep up with everything. I've been super busy at work. I've been, doing different meeting and stuff like that. But, that's the day job. That's what I get paid for. So, I do all that. The issue is, how that affects this show is then I become more busier in my day job and, doing things after school and, grading papers and lesson plans and photocopy, all that stuff. So that means it gets me behind and, like trying to read comics, trying to watch stuff and all that. So it's just, that's my life, trying to balance all that. But I'm also trying to look out for my mental health and just everything like that. So I'm not trying to burn myself out, because that is not going to do anyone any good, day job or this job or whatever. So we'll see what I can do. But what we will have, the movie feature is Kraven the Hunter. I'm going to say, one of the things how I put it is I didn't hate it. And it was not great. But yeah, I definitely have some things to talk about. So it's really unfortunate, obviously, but you put the pride of writing was on the wall. There was no surprise that it wasn't going to be a blockbuster. It's just it's too bad. So we're going to have Silo, Skeleton Crew, the Star Wars show with Creature Commandos. I think because of, again, just trying to balance everything out, I think I'm only going to do episode 2 this week. So last week, or when it debuted, they dropped episodes 1 and 2. And then, so right now, as you're listening, the first 3 episodes are out. Next week, I'll maybe catch it eventually, because when I'm on winter break from school, I should have some more time, maybe. So we'll see. But because the show drops on Thursdays, I go to the movie on Thursdays. Silo comes out Thursday night, Friday. So it's just, trying to get all this stuff done into the weekend so I can, record and then edit and all that. So you can hear about the second episode of Creature Commandos, but the third one is available. And then same thing with Cobra Kai. So yes, all these episodes have dropped a while ago. We are at episode 9, and there's going to be one more next week, which again, also this is good for just the next couple weeks, because and as we get into the end of December, we're not going to see a bunch of new shows come out. The only thing coming up is Squid Games on Christmas Day, I think. It's good to kind of just, still have a couple things going. Otherwise, this podcast is just going to be comics, news, comics, and a movie. So we'll see. But with the news, what we have. There's been like some Marvel sort of news, rumors, and so it's kind of like a mix of the two. And I'm starting to lose track now of what's confirmed and what's not. So one of the things we have, the big thing, is Chris Evans is going to appear in Avengers Doomsday. What does that mean? What immediately comes to mind, what I think is, we're not going to see in the main MCU, we're not going to see Captain America. We're not going to see Chris Evans Captain America. And he's old or whatever, all that stuff, how Endgame ended and everything. The only thing, what jumps out, what seems obvious, and maybe it's too obvious, is if we're looking at Robert Downey Jr. returning, and if he's going to be Doctor Doom, which I don't recall if they've said that he's going to be Victor Von Doom or if he's going to be Doctor Doom, because there's a difference there, and we need to keep in mind MCU movies are not 100% tied to Marvel Comics, so they can do little variations, and that's totally fine. I'm taking it that it's some alternate Marvel universe, some alternate reality, multiverse, where something happened, Robert Downey Jr. became Doctor Doom. Maybe he had the accident and became scarred and all that, and became evil. Now, at the same thing is, if somehow Doctor Doom finds a way into the quote-unquote 616, which is what they're calling the movie universe, even though that's not, because that's a comic universe, but whatever, we won't go into that. We're seeing Chris Evans. It's possible we're going to see Chris Evans. We're going to see Steve Rogers from this Doctor Doom world. So it is not the Chris Evans Captain America that we've seen, in the last 15 years. One of the rumors is like he's not coming back as Captain America. He's not coming back as Johnny Storm. He's going to be Nomad, which for comic readers, comic nerds, that's cool because there is a history of that. But for the regular, even people who watch every single Marvel Studios movie, having him back as Nomad, that's not going to really mean much to them, because they would expect him as Captain America. So. We'll see how that goes. Either way, I think it's awesome because I love Chris Evans and I can't wait to see that. There's also, according to Deadline, that Haley Atwell is also going to return. I have to assume Haley Atwell from this universe, from this Doctor Doom universe, maybe. But then how is she there? We saw Haley Atwell in Multiverse of Madness. So, there's no telling what this means and how she could be there if she's from the past and everything. And then there's rumor, Scarlett Johansson, is she going to be back? Because I think it was one of the scoopers, maybe it's that insider guy, where a source is like, oh, it'd be weird if she was the only Avenger that didn't show up. But it has Jeremy Renner. I can't remember if he's said he's coming back. So we'll see. And if she comes back again, it could be Natasha from this other world. And so it's cool and exciting, but it's not the return of the characters that we know, but it's still, I'm not going to say no thanks. I'm going to say, let's get more. So whatever, that's fine. Denzel Washington. So I don't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago where he mentioned that he was going to be in Black Panther 3. That Ryan Coogler's writing, a character for him named Hannibal, and he's saying Ryan Coogler's going to be writing, I think directing it also. And I was just when I talked about it, I was like, wait, what? It's like Black Panther 3. I don't remember anyone saying anything about this. I was like, okay, I must have missed it because that's totally possible. But apparently, no, I didn't miss it. He apologized for talking about it. I think he was on a Today Show or something like that. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this movie, and I'm doing Othello and whatever. And so he wasn't supposed to mention it, because Marvel Studios hasn't announced Black Panther 3. And I would think, he would get in a bit of trouble. What are they going to do? Because, Denzel Washington is, he's a acclaimed actor, but here's the thing. I love Denzel Washington. I do think he's amazing. I thought he was fine in Gladiator. I just don't think Gladiator 2, wasn't my favorite movie. And while he was good in it, I feel like he was just like Denzel Washington in a movie. I don't feel he played a character, in this time era or whatever. So he was, great in it, but I feel like he was just Denzel Washington. So I don't know. We'll see. I really don't know what to expect for Black Panther 3 because, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So we'll have to wait. Absolutely, I'm going to watch it. And I would love to see the franchise continue in some form or other. So let's go. DC Studios, they've announced 2 movies coming up. So we're going to get a Clayface movie. And Mike Flanagan's going to be writing it. And I don't know if he's directing it. I don't remember. But Mike Flanagan he's done a lot of cool stuff. He's done a lot of the recent Netflix, like The Haunting stuff. And I think he did Dr. Sleep also, which I did like that movie. I like the director's cut better than the regular one. So he's going to be doing Clayface movie. It's supposed to come out September 11th, 2026. Now, the speculation is, we don't really know much about this Clay. We don't know anything really. And the question is Alan Tudyk going to be Clayface? Because he is voicing Clayface in Creature Commandos, and James Gunn said that people who voice the characters animated are going to be the same as live action. But he also mentioned for someone like Alan Tudyk, who's voicing 3 characters, that he's not considering like the minor characters that aren't going to be on a big screen. He's not worried, so he can double cast or whatever, triple cast. And so everyone's like, is Dr. Phosphorus going to be live action? Is Will Magnus going to be in live action? But maybe he's going to be voicing a live action Clayface. And my only thing is, okay, we're getting a Clayface movie. What exactly does that mean? And I'm just really hesitant about these villain movies. And this is something we can talk about later when we get to Kraven the Hunter. So let's just save that talk. Well, I mean, so a movie centered around a villain, that, it could be fine and everything like that. But when you're having the movie just about the villain without the hero, without the main hero, their nemesis, it's a weird thing. And it kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, you can always say that about the Penguin, HBO Max show. It was great. It was amazing. But at some level, it's kind of weird that we have a Penguin show with no Batman in it. And we obviously we didn't need Batman, but still, it feels like something was missing. It feels a little weird, but that's fine. Going back to Marvel for a bit, Jarrell Jerome, I think that's how you say his name, who voices Miles Morales in the Spider-Verse movies, he says that he hasn't even begun to record Beyond the Spider-Verse because with the rewrites and stuff like that. So that's. I thought at some point they said that they had recorded. I don't know if they just completely scrapped everything because they said that they did just what was happened with this whatever script that they had, and I don't know. Also, with speaking of villain movies, I think it was a Rap had mentioned that Kraven the Hunter is the last Spider-Man universe movie that Sony's doing for the time being, because they're going to be shifting their focus to Spider-Man 4, Spider-Man Noir, which is currently under production, whatever, and Beyond the Spider-Verse, which, okay, let's get going on that. But what I've seen, they're like, oh yeah, Kraven Hunter, it's the final nail in the coffin, blah blah, all this stuff like that. But it's like, no, it's just what I read is this is the final Spider-Man universe movie for the time being, for now, because they're doing Spider-Man 4, so they're going to put all their energy there. So it doesn't mean like we're never going to see like a Vulture movie or Shocker movie or just someone. I'm trying to think of someone who hasn't been used. We can't do Kingpin because you know what I'm saying. So it just seems like a silly. It seems like an assumption, but I don't know. I mean, unless maybe they're going to do an Amazing Spider-Man movie or a Tobey Maguire movie, and they want to. That's what they should do. I just don't understand why they're doing all these villain movies because it's not working. And while we're getting some, occasionally, we got some good actors in these movies, the movies are just, I don't know why they just fall apart so badly. They're just so poorly done, written. but they don't have to be like that. And I think, I don't know if it's just difficult to make a compelling movie just focusing, main character is a bad guy. Because, people go to comic book movies because they want to see the heroes. So it just seems so incredibly bizarre where, why don't we have like a Jessica Drew movie or why we had Madam Web, but that, even though like, if we can do why do Madam Web? Why not Jessica Drew or Julia Carpenter or Anya Corazon, like separate movie, or Maddie Franklin, a separate movie, or why not do a Prowler movie? Because there's some recognition from the Spider-Verse, or the Miles Morales, or just why. I don't understand, and I'm trying to think what other heroes could they do, because we're looking at Spider-Man related characters. You don't want to do John Jameson and do like, Man-Wolf, and we got Venom. We don't need any more symbiotes. So I don't even know who else is spider related that we could do. Agent Venom, but again, those more symbiotes. So we'll see. Apparently, Willem Dafoe is kind of teasing the return of Green Goblin. He was doing. I think he's in Nosferatu, and he was talking about it, and I think he said, "Wow, there's nothing going on with like a Tobey Maguire or something like that." But he's like, "Oh yeah, it'd be nice, to work with Tom Holland again because he was a great kid and all stuff like that." But I think he's just talking. I mean, because I don't think there's anything really happening there. Deadpool kind of returned. Deadpool and Kidpool were in this video with Linda Carter for this Sick Kids video, and they're like, it's a holiday thing. They're like on a sleigh, whatever you want to call it, and Deadpool, he's like, we need to eliminate sick kids, and Kidpool's like, what, really? What? And what they meant is like helping kids or whatever, and so they bring in Linda Carter, and he's like, you're such a wonderful woman, and they want her to do like the spin thing, and but I guess DC lawyers kind of got in the way. So it was fun, and Ryan Reynolds said that probably the next time we're going to see Deadpool, he's probably going to be like a supporting character. He said that he would love to, because he the main thing he said, like, if you're gonna have Deadpool in this movie, you have to like take everything away. You have to like tear him down so he has something to fight for. So just having him pop up here or there, he's like, Channing Tatum's excited to play Gambit. I'd love to be a fifth wheel and something like that or whatever. And then he talks about he has all these kids and he wants to be part of their lives, and he doesn't want to miss out on any like rehearsals or practice or whatever performance things. And so I mean that's important. That's good. That the family has to come first, and so we'll see. Godzilla, Marvel Comics, Godzilla versus Marvel 2025. Why not? And at first when you hear that, it's like, oh, that's crazy. But like, no, it's going to be out of continuity. It's not like it's going to be in a regular continuity. And you look at Godzilla versus Kong versus Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. I mean, that was amazing. I love that. Brian Buccellato, who I love also, but he just happened to do like a bonkers, bananas story. And it was just, and that's a nice thing. Have it out of continuity so anything goes, and expect the unexpected or whatever. So I'm down for Godzilla versus Marvel to see what this is going to do. How are they going to top Justice League? So we'll see. Eric Kripke, he's kind of like talking. He was teasing the Boys prequel show, the Rising. So with Jensen Ackles and Aya Cash, Stormfront. So he's talking about how it's like a period piece because I think it's taking place in the 80s. So he's excited about doing that. So I will watch that, and I think that is just about it for the news. The last thing, which I can't really speak much on, is there was a trailer for Harley Quinn Season 5. And I'm trying to remember if I knew that there was a Season 5 trailer. It seems like it just keeps coming. And I think I talked about Season 4 on the show. I don't think I missed that. I know I've missed, I missed something recently. Oh, I never watched Kite Man. I never got around to seeing that. Because I don't know I can't remember if that started during Comic-Con, and I just, didn't get around to it. So the only thing I know about the Harley Quinn, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I'm not against it or anything, but I just didn't get a chance to watch. And apparently Brainiac is attacking Metropolis or something like that, so they're going to be headed there to fight him or something, because I guess Superman's busy, or maybe he's captured, or who knows. But what I do know is that is the news for the week. All right, so with comics, let's see, what did I read? At Image, I actually, sadly, did not read anything. There wasn't a whole lot that came out, which is weird because it's not like the 5th week or anything like that. There was a Creepshow holiday special, so you might want to check that out. Kaya 23, which I do enjoy that comic, so I need to read that. We had Transformers number 15. So a buddy of mine, Rich, he loves this comic. I don't know what it is about me and Transformers, and maybe it just goes back to the fact that I wasn't committed to the Transformers cartoon. I watched the G.I. Joe's cartoon like almost religiously. I just didn't watch Transformers, and I feel like I've said this before. I don't remember if they came out like at exactly the same time. I feel like G.I. Joe came out first, and then Transformers started coming out, because I don't know why I wouldn't have watched both of them. And I feel like Transformer came out a little later when I was, maybe older and just not, didn't have the time because just other life, whatever, responsibilities. So yeah, I will read it. I need to do that. And then Witchblade number 6 is out. I'm so far behind. I wanted to keep up with the series, but yeah, it just fallen behind. Other things at Dynamite, there was a Space Ghost, which I do love. So we're at issue 8. Also, I think the trade is coming out soon for the first 6 issues, if it's not already. But with Space Ghost number 8, what's interesting about this is we kind of get a little more of his backstory, because what happened in Space Ghost's past, and I think it's now I'm trying to remember because we had the DC comic, which is a little it varies a little bit, but we know he had a family and everything, and what happened? Why is Space Ghost on his own before he meets the kids? And so we see here what happened, how he lost his family. And I see, what's it say? I don't want to spoil too much. Painful events of the past meet the brutal events of the present as Space Ghost and Metalis clash. And while these titans do battle, Space Ghost's young allies learn the shocking secrets behind their mentor's tragic history. So yeah, there's some background information, what is going on with that. And that's one of the things I love about this comic. David Pepos is just doing a great job, just really fleshing out who Space Ghost is and all that, and just enhancing their personalities, make them a little more than sort of not quite two-dimensional, or just so lighthearted as they kind of were in the cartoon. And then Jonathan Lau's art, he's just so amazing. And I just remember, I think the first time I saw his art was Green Hornet, way back. So his art is just so solid. So I just really dig that. So you should be reading Space Ghost. It's just really cool. We had Terminator number 3. I do want to read this. I didn't get a chance to. This last days of Vietnam War, the scale of the violence and destruction have been unleashed. So I think this is continuing, because I don't think the story finished last time. But nothing that Private Dugan has experienced in battle could have prepared him for the thing that just tore his squad to ribbons and walked through the hellish fire of an airstrike seemingly unscathed. if there's some way to kill it, okay, I'm not going to read it. This is a really long synopsis. But yeah, I need to read that. And then the first other reason, Thundercats issue 10. Now I'm wondering, did I read Thundercats issue 9? Maybe I did, but I feel like somehow I always get behind, which it bums me out. I don't like that, I miss out on so much, but that's how it goes. At Marvel, I read almost everything that I normally read at Marvel, and there is a specific reason for this. It's not like preference or anything like that, but I get early access to Marvel comics. That's not a big secret, and that helps immensely. Certain other publisher does that I mentioned before. I'm not going to go into now. They don't give me early access, so I can't read all their comics early. That's the reality of it. But who am I? I'm just this guy with this little podcast, right? Amazing Spider-Man 63. So here's what kind of caught me off guard when I read this. I thought Joe Kelly was writing Spider-Man now, and this is written by Justina Ireland. Did I miss something? I thought Joe Kelly was doing the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, and this is the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. So I don't know, because what part is this? This is part 3. Yeah, I'm confused. So we have more, and I'm not loving this story. I do applaud the fact that we got Magic Spider-Man. We got Spider-Man with doing magical spells and stuff like that. So what's fun about that is it is something different, something that we haven't seen for the past 60 whatever years. And he does have a new costume, which of course he's got a new costume. How many? I feel like Spider-Man has had so many different costumes. I can't even keep track of how many he's had. And and you look at the Spider-Man games. I mean, it's insane how many different costumes that how many different. Yeah. So here I forget. Has he died 3 times? This is part 3. But he's fighting. He's got these 8 reeds, so he can only die a certain number of times. I mean, he's supposed to be like the world's champion or the realm's champion. And there's are they Mephisto's kids? Now, I don't know why I have Mephisto in my head if I'm thinking about something else. He had so the one that he fights here is just kind of annoying. She can kind of go through time and she's kind of poking fun at his this is their champion and whatever, and she's making him relive all these horrible moments, which sucks because Spider-Man's he's gone through so much hardship, which is just ridiculous. And the fact that she can see the past and the future, how is he supposed to fight her? At one point, towards the end of the issue, he was supposed to meet Aunt May, or supposed to do some stuff. She's like, "Where have you been?" or something like that, and he kind of snaps at her. But it's dude, he has a life too, and maybe he was supposed to meet with her, but yeah. So that was it sucks that he has all this stuff. He's got this new girlfriend. He can't tell her what's going on because she doesn't know, and so yeah, it's he's got such a sucky life. Even though everyone loves Spider-Man, but yeah, it's tough being Spider-Man. Dazzler number 4. I haven't been reading it. I read the first issue, and I don't know if these have gotten any better, but the first issue was fine, and I do really like the character. Yeah, it's just Dazzler's being targeted, and I feel like she shouldn't need Domino and other people to help protect her. She should be able to fend for herself, and so I don't know how that is. So we had Deadpool team up number 4. No, I'm not reading that. Look, we have that. What's this dude's name? Oh, Major X. The Return of Major X. Which I forget what his actual origin is. Is he Cable's kid? I don't even remember. Someone can explain it to me. Incredible Hulk. I didn't read this. I didn't even look at this. I didn't even pick it up. I'm assuming, I'm looking at the cover. I'm assuming we had that girl is what, I don't even remember her name now. It's been so long. Is her name? That's not Michelle. I don't remember what her name is. But I do hope she gets out of this hell. Wait, has she been freed now? Because is that that's not Werewolf by Night, is it? See, I don't even know what's going on. But yeah, with this being thing that's targeting him, or no, maybe her name is Charlie. I think that was it. I don't know what's going on. Infinity Watch. I didn't want to read this, but I did. Because it's like, why? So my issue with this, we had all these like backup stories, all these different characters. So my major thing is, we got these Infinity Stones. They're not Infinity Gems. They're different, and they've bonded with people. They're like inside them or whatever. So we have Star, who we've seen in Captain Marvel. I don't like how she was like this like reporter, a college whatever gal who was talking to Captain Marvel, and then she's just like turns pure evil, and yeah, so I don't really dig that so much, and just she has like no morals, it seems like. But then we have these other people. I don't really care about these others. We do have Colleen Wing, which is weird. I mean, it's cool, but it's weird. And then we have Phil Coulson, who is Death, and it's like, wait, what? Oh. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on, and they're kind of together, even though they don't really want to be, and I feel like someone's like manipulating them to be together, like one of the Infinity Watch, and then they get attacked. There's these people who apparently, they have all this immense powers, or like gods, but this other group, whatever, may be more powerful than they are. So, I don't know. But yeah, it's just hard because I'm not overly... So as much as I love Phil Coulson, it's just not quite him here. So, yeah. Laura Kinney, Wolverine. This was a good issue. I mean, I can't say it was great. I loved it and blew me away. But I loved the character. I love Laura. She basically hears about a mutant that's missing, that's in danger, like a mutant sibling. So she wants to try to rescue this mutant, because she doesn't feel like anyone should be manipulated or used, and just with the way her origin and everything like that. So it's just cool to see Laura being a badass. So for that's great, and I love the fact if she has her own series, I 100% will support that. We had a Pet Pool comic. I didn't read that. Who was involved with this? Mackenzie Cadenhead and Ebal. Yeah, I didn't read that. Then we had Phoenix number 6. I'm not loving this series. I absolutely love Jean Grey. I'm not really digging this so much, and it's just all this cosmic stuff. So we have the Black Orders. That's their name, right? And Thanos is now in charge of this galactic whatever thing. So they're got to take Phoenix down. She's actually working with Nova, Rich Rider, which is kind of cool. But then she's going to get working with some allies. Like 3 people show up at the end, which is kind of an odd mix. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't understand. Scarlet Witch, we're at issue 7, which I haven't been reading that. Maybe someday I'll try to get caught up with that. I'm not reading Spirits of Vengeance. Storm, I didn't read issue 2. I feel like issue 2 just came out like last week. Well, issue 3, we have Rogue on a cover, so I don't know how that was. Wait, did I read Star Wars? Oh, I just realized. Okay, so now we're getting to the point where I didn't read everything. So we're Star Wars: The Battle of Jakku, Republic Under Siege. This is issue 4, which is really issue 8 of 12. So yeah, I thought I heard something like there's some shocking ending or appearance, or I don't know what happened there. Ultimate Universe number 1. So you look at the cover, like Ultimate Nick Fury, awesome. I love Nick Fury. And then you read, oh man, Nick Fury, what are you doing? So there's no shield here. It's a group called Hand. Looking at the synopsis, it doesn't say much. It just says, the clock is ticking down to the Maker's arrival. Because it's supposed to be 2 years. I thought it was 1 year, but it's 2 years. Then his camp flips the narrative on Ultimates and takes us inside the Maker's Council. The heroes of the Ultimate Universe aren't the only ones who have been preparing for the return of the Maker. Clock is ticking down. This unique one-shot sets the stage for the second year of the Ultimate line and includes the debut of the Ultimate versions of two major Marvel characters. Wait, who else appears here? I don't think they're talking about Nick Fury. Maybe they're talking about Wolverine, because that Ultimate Wolverine's coming. Basically, spoiler, Ultimate Nick Fury is kind of working with the Makers Council, doing so this is this group Hand is just not a good group, and it's just like, what are you doing? And then it's almost tragic in a way, like what happens. Ultimate X-Men number 10 came out. I love the art, but I'm not reading that. Ultimate X-Men number 7. So this is Raiden Grey Malkin part 2 of 4, and it was a little weird. Normally, I've been loving this series. I've been loving what Gail Simone and David Marquez have been doing, but one thing that was a tiny bit annoying, not a major thing. I feel like this backed up a little bit, because when we had the first part of Attack on Raiden Grey Malkin, whatever, we saw. We kind of have a repeat of some of the events. Okay, whatever, that happens because, two different books, two different writers, that's fine. But then the other thing is, Rogue was just really angry here. And it's weird, because mutants are being captured, and at the former Xavier school, it's now a prison, which is ridiculous. I don't understand how that happened, how they gained access to it, or how they own the land. It's Xavier's. Doesn't he own it? I don't even know. So mutants have been captured. Beast has been captured, just younger Beast, who's not evil Beast. Jubilee and a couple other the new kids have been captured. So Rogue wants to go and get Jubilee and this girl, I forget her name, Calico? I don't remember if someone else is capturing that. But she's talking to Cyclops in Alaska, because they're planning on going there, and he's like, well, we can't have too many people, because if we send too many mutants, then it becomes like war against humans or whatever. But she's just like, whatever, I'm going, type of thing. And she's just like so angry at Scott, and even at one point he's like, is there a problem? Is like, have I done something to upset you? And I don't know if I just missed it, whatever. And then the other thing that kind of bothers me, which I just don't understand, is why the heck is Wolverine calling her Moonbeam? Where did that come from? And, because how long is Rogue and Wolverine, how long have they been teammates? Since she debuted. Was it Uncanny X-Men 1, I want to say that wasn't 183? Or something like that, where it's like, wasn't it like, welcome to X-Men, Rogue, hopefully you survived experience, and they do that whole thing. And I don't understand, Moonbeam, like, where does that come from? Rogue has nothing to do with the moon. I just don't understand. So there's some cool fighting moments, but then at some points it's like Rogue and Cyclops are like, fighting each other, and like one of the other kids like attacks Cyclops, and I don't know. X Factor, I didn't get around to reading this. I love Mark Russell. I think he's a brilliant writer. He's hilarious. I'm not totally gung-ho about the series, because I like Havoc, and it's in some ways it's kind of like they're kind of like a joke. But I got to see what happens there. And then we had Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is weird that this is out already. I feel like they should have waited, because I think the animated series was supposed to come out this month, but then it got pushed back. But maybe they're just like, well, whatever, this is out, we're just doing this. But they can also just have it out and then just be closer to the trade coming out, so they can sell that. So this is written by Christos Gage, and then the art is by Eric Gapster, and it's Leonardo Romero does the cover, because he did the designs for the show. I mean, it's Christos Gage since he's writing it. Because when I looked at the first page, what I feel like oh, this could be just like watered down, adaptation comic thing, but maybe it could be fine. And I'm also hesitant. Do I read this before the cartoon or wait? Because I don't want to spoil things, but we're going to get a good idea, like the tone in that. So we'll see. I'll probably read it before the show. I don't even know when the show's coming. Then over at DC, there surprisingly wasn't a whole lot at DC. But despite that, Tony did not read the few comics that he normally would have read. So what came out, and I need to get caught up. I still haven't read Batgirl from last week. I was going to read that. I read something else. I read some of the other stuff that I missed last week. I don't remember what came out. Okay, so last week, I guess I can talk about this. So Action Comics 1078, I read that, and I don't understand how Action Comics is just like not as fun and exciting, considering Mark Waid's involved with that. It's just weird. Just JSA number 2. This is not good. Things do not go well for Justice Society. They're getting attacked and they're getting their butts kicked. It's not good. Birds of Prey number 16. So Cassandra Cain kind of went like undercover to infiltrate the script, and then she ended up getting captured. And they're like waiting. They have like the Birds of Prey have like this protocol set where she's supposed to check in. She missed her first check-in, but I think it's like the third check-in. If she misses the third, that's when they go in. And Big Barda, she's all ready to go. She's like on edge. She wants to go get Little Bat and everything. So they end up going, and then we get like stuff going down, and things don't go. Something happens to Cassandra Cain. That's all I'll say. Speaking of Cassandra Cain, Batgirl number 2. Surprisingly, I haven't read that, which I should have read that. Shazam, I didn't read that. Two-Face, I'm curious. But why is Two-Face having a special? So I didn't read that so last week, and then that was it. I didn't read anything else last week, but this week. So what do we have this week? So we had another Action Comics 1079. I didn't read that. Green Lantern number 18. I think my buddy read it, and he did not care for this issue. And it's weird. I think because we were talking about like the Jeff Johns books, at Mad Ghost, right? I don't know. I always mess that up. I mean, all those books that Jeff Johns has been doing, Geiger and Red Coat, just like they're so good. Just like the character development and just the action and stuff like that. And I was thinking, Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. Oh my gosh, that was like epic. I mean, it was like just so. Even when things got crazy with like the Black Lanterns and just all it was like so much, but they were so good. And Green Lanterns, even though I feel like maybe we're slowly kind of reverting back, but yeah, it's just off a little bit. So, but I do want to read the issue 18 to see what's going on. There was Superwoman special. I did read this. This is like the one book I read at DC this week, and we find out Superwoman's origin. So how did Lois Lane, spoiler, in case you didn't, obviously it's Lois Lane. How did she get her powers? I won't go into the specifics here because I do want you to support the book, and I do feel if you are curious, you really want to know, you should buy the comic and find out. As far as how, okay, I'll buy that. That makes sense. I'm totally fine with that. What I will spoil is because of like the nature of her powers or whatever. There's no telling how long she'll have her powers because some other people have done tests on her. Because she went to Mercy, she ended up going to Mr. Terrific with Superman and that, and what they've decided that the powers may not necessarily be permanent. While she's absorbing like power, from the yellow sun type of thing, it's not necessarily like a permanent thing. I think it was Mr. Terrific. He's like, are you using your powers without worrying about them, burning out, or are you saving it for like a rainy day? And she's like going out and doing stuff, which seems crazy. If she's out flying around, she doesn't know, is she going to feel the powers fade, or is it all of a sudden, boom, powers are gone? And if she's out in the middle of a battle or just flying around over the city and then her powers cut out, what is she going to do? Call Superman and hope that he's somewhere around? But even like after she got her powers, whatever, Superman goes into the Phantom Zone, so he's not really around. So it just seems very irresponsible. But yeah, so we'll see where this is going to go. And I'm okay. I'm fine with Lois having powers. I think it could be fun and exciting. Because I said the same thing about like Mary Jane and Spider-Man, that Mary Jane having powers. I'm totally fine with that, because when you have the hero and a civilian, it's like such separate lives. And when the hero is constantly going off because they have to, out of responsibility, to go off and save people, then it just leaves the civilian sitting at home doing nothing, or just they can have their own life, but it's not like a really great relationship. So I'm fine with that. DC versus Vampires World War V. I fell behind on this. I do enjoy this series, but yeah, for some reason I've missed the last couple comics issues. Batman and Robin number 16. I didn't read that. This Batman Dark Patterns, I don't know what this is about, even though I saw the preview like so many times. Was it last week? I feel like it was more than just last week. So it's by Dan Waters and Hayden Sherman. I should have checked that out, but I didn't. And then that's really it. There's Black Lightning. There's Batman Santa Claus Silent Night. Gotham City Sirens. I don't know. Uncovered. I don't know if that's a reprint or what. So that is it. That is all I read. I hope next week I'll be able to read more comics, because this it's disappointing for me. But there's going to be more in this week's episode. But that is comics for the week. All right, Cobra Kai Season 6, Episode 9, Blood In, Blood Out. So I think we got 2 more episodes, and then I'm pretty sure that there's more after this. I don't think 609 is the last one, because I'm pretty sure there's 15. So it starts off Bangkok, Thailand, 3 months ago, or 3 months earlier. There's like some cage fighting thing. Terry Silver sitting at a table, is like drinking. He looks like pretty disheveled. His hair is like not like pulled back. This dude in a suit with like a stuffed satchel, like kind of briefcase thing, comes in, says he has good news. He got the judge to officially throw away his case, which it's like, what is the point of them getting arrested or whatever? But he's like, not that it was tough. It's like that Stingray guy, least credible witness of all time. He tried to get this kid, Bert, to testify on his behalf. I don't remember who Bert was, so and I'm not going to look back, whatever. So he's like, most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in a courtroom. And he's like, look, Terry, since you've been back in karate, you've been acting. And Terry puts his glass down. And it's like not even that hard. He's like, but then the dude keeps going. He's like, I'm just saying, you blew a lot of money in those dojos. It's like, you're lucky to have the yacht left. It's like, I don't want you to go in a downward spiral and end up in the morgue like your buddy Snake. And he's like, we all end up there someday. Inside the cage, the fighting, one guy, he's like, I'm done. The other guy, who is the steak stealer dude, Sensei Wolf, he's not finished. So he's standing there. Then he does this like twirled, like stance thing, whatever. And Terry's like, ooh, watch this. It seems that, I don't know, it seems like he dance spins kind of slowly, and he kicks a guy in the upper chest. There's like a crunch noise, and then the sort of opponent goes down, starts having like he's like convulsing or whatever. And then the lawyer dude, he's like, Jesus. And then Terry's like, I still have my offshore accounts. And he's like, yeah, but I don't know what you're going to want. That's all I need to hear. So the winner dude, Wolf, he goes up to Terry. He's like, man said, you want to see me? He's like, yes. I thought that move was banned. There's like some name for it. I don't remember. And Wolf's like, no, not here. He's like, I only gave him 3/4 speed, which, okay, maybe it was, because it was kind of slow. Silver chuckles. And he's like, are you from the commission? And Terry's like, no. So he stands up to like face Wolf. He's like, I do know about your financial issues. Lost ownership of your dojo. Some problems can be solved in a cage, but not this one. You got into bed with the wrong people, friend. He's like, are you my friend now? Terry's like, no, I'm your savior. I'm here to pay off all your debts. And Wolf's like, what's the catch then? As defending champions, your team has an automatic berth to the Sekai Takai. I want some friends who want to play spoiler, which I don't know what that means. He's like, you show them the error of their ways by embarrassing them in front of the world, and I'll sign ownership of the dojo back to you forever. So he wants to spend all this money just to embarrass them. It's like so ridiculous. So Wolf's like, consider it done. The other guy's like, no, nothing's done here. Come on, Terry, buying another dojo? It's like, think about your legacy. And Terry's like, legacy? Those SOBs ruined my reputation. They took the one thing left in the world I cared about. So if I'm going to hell, I'm taking them down with me. What was the one thing he took left? Cobra Kai? So in the present, Daniel's like, because they're in a room where Silver's in like a hot tub or whatever. So Daniel's like, you were behind my kidnapping? And Terry's like, your obsession with your mentor's past made it too easy. Plus, I couldn't resist reintroducing you to a Mr. de Guzman here. So the long-haired goon, he just kind of snores. Then there's a flashback to Karate Kid 3. So I guess, I saw the movie once, and it was just a few years back. So I think he was like attacking Mr. Miyagi's bonsai store or whatever, and then Daniel kind of like beat him up. And then the guy's like, ready to go again? And Daniel's like, you've got to be kidding me. Then Kreese is like, enough, Terry. He's like, you got 3 seconds to get out of there. So he's still in the jacuzzi or whatever. And he's like, oh, we're going to get you out. It's like, 1, 2. And in Spanish, she was like, Mr. Silver, are you ready? ¿Están listos? These 2 ladies come out. And Terry's like, I'm so sorry, folks, but it's time for my 4-hand massage. I was really looking forward to see this play out. But an appointment's an appointment. You look a little tense, John. Yeah, after he like puts his robe on, he's like, you should book yourself in here. My treat. Just like the old days. So they leave, including Wolf. Kreese moves pull out his blade. It's like, what, are you going to stab him right there? Kim stops him. Not here, not now. Let's win the tournament first. So Kreese leaves. Kim like looks at Chosen for a second and follows. And Daniel's like, what was that? And Chosen's like, it was nothing, I'm sure. It's like, what do we do now? And Daniel's like, well, we can't hide this from the kids. If we're going to take on Kreese and Silver, we're all going to need to work together. So then Johnny and Miguel return already, like that quickly. I don't understand how that works. They're in a hotel room along with Kenny, and they're all silent. So somehow Kenny got there. I guess they all took, I don't know, whatever. So they're all like silent, and Johnny's like, what crawled up everyone's butts? So then the 3 senseis are out in the hall talking. And Johnny's like, that ponytail prick is back? It's like, you got to be kidding me. What good is prison if Kreese can escape and Silver doesn't even go? Chosen's like, Sekai Takai admission policy also suck. Daniel's like, for better or worse, the Sekai Takai doesn't know what went down in the valley. Silver is here to make good on his promise, becoming the #1 dojo worldwide. And then Chosen's like, Silver cannot with Cobra Kai, so he buys another dojo. And Danny's like, and we all know from experience, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. And Johnny's like, look, screw Silver. We took him down before. We'll do it again. I came back, left Carmen to win. Let's finish what we started. Chosen's like, yes. And then he goes back inside. Daniel talks to Johnny. He's like, he wants somehow relieved he is that Carmen and Baby are okay. And he's like, and I really appreciate that voicemail you left me. And Johnny's like, don't worry, LaRusso. It's all pissed under the bridge. He's like, we good? And Daniel's like, we're good. And Johnny's like, good. Let's go win this thing. In the room, Devin goes up to Kenny. She's like, hey, look, I don't know how you'll ever forgive me, but Kenny, I am truly sorry. I've regretted what I did to you every single day that I've been here. He like turns around and he like sighs. He's like, look, I had a lot of time to think on a plane, and I've always liked you. You're always cool with me when we trained with Silver. So honestly, you targeting me is kind of flattering. You just saw me as the biggest threat. They both kind of chuckle. She's like, I did. He's like, I know. And she's like, hey, how was your flight? So Dimitri gets Sam's attention. He's like, if Miguel's back, why is Kenny here? And Hawk's like, oh, because he's taken Devin's spot. And he's like, what? So he just forgave her all of a sudden after what she did? He scoffs. He's like, I don't buy it. Sam, as our only captain without a soft spot for Kenny, I feel obligated to inform you that we may have a potential traitor in our midst. And she's like, we shouldn't be jumping to conclusions. And Dimitri's like, I'm not saying it's happened yet. All I'm saying is we know that Silver's going to cheat. The only question is how. So they all look at Kenny and Devin talking. So at the tournament, whatever, top 8 dojos meet for the final group event. Daniel and Johnny just glare at Terry during Gunther's speech. And it's weird because Sam is in front of Miguel and she kind of like takes his hand. It doesn't seem appropriate that you're holding hands in this tournament, whatever. But Axel sees him from like the other side, so obviously it's going to cause a problem. He glares at Miguel, and Miguel kind of notices. He's like, huh? Gunther's like, after today, only the best of the best will gain entry into the Tournament of Champions. Each team will face 3 opponents, determined by random draw in an all-dojo tag team competition. 2 fighters inside the ring, 1 from each dojo at a time. The other 10 fighters will remain outside, waiting to be tagged in by their teammate. Fighting will be continuous, so use your 2 teammates wisely. The first dojo to score 3 points wins the match. By the end of today, your captains will either be fighting in the Tournament of Champions or be eliminated, watching from the sidelines. So we see various moments, so they started from a different match. Cobra Kai wins their match, even though Tori got knocked down. Iron Dragons, of course, win their match. Sam and Robbie, they kind of look concerned. Miyagi-Do's turn. So Dimitri starts. His opponent, it seems like he's like almost like playing with him. Hawk's like tag me in, but stupid Dimitri's like, no. He's like, I got this. So even though he like hasn't made contact with the dude, so there's like just going. Hawk's like again, he's like, tag me in, and stupid Dimitri looks at him. He's like, no, and then he gets kicked in the face. So point. Sam goes in after him. It looks like she's fighting in slow motion. I don't know what's going on with this episode. Maybe the guy's tired now, whatever. So he tags in this big girl. So fights. Sam manages to score a point. Hawk goes in against the next guy. He seems more like a powerhouse. He fights like really aggressively. So Hawk has to be like defensive. And then Kenny's like, tag me in. And stupid Dimitri, he like does like a throat cutting, like no, ixnay, whatever. And Robbie's like, what are you doing? It's like, tag Kenny. And he sees Kreese like staring. And instead of Kenny, he tags in Robbie, who like was it Kreese or maybe it was Silver? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. But so he tags in Robbie. He wasn't expecting it, right? So he gets knocked down or whatever. He gets hit immediately. Point for the other team. So now it's like 1-2. So they're down. Then the other guy tags in another. Robbie's still on the mat because he hasn't tagged out yet. Miguel's like he yells. He's like, tag me in. So Robbie reaches, but the other dude kicks Robbie's arm. Robbie gets like hit in the chest. Point, other team, winner. So it's like they're such a mess. How the heck is Miyagi-Do even here? So Gunther's like, Miyagi-Do's loss puts them on the verge of elimination after their first match. And Miguel yells at Hawk. He's like, Eli, why didn't you tag in Kenny when you had a chance? And he's like, he just got here. You expect me to trust him already? And he's like, trust me to what? Not get my ass kicked like you and Dimitri? So Dimitri's like, oh, like you do any better against Spanish Hawk. You completely disappeared after the poopening. They didn't say poop. And then you coincidentally come back to the same time as Silver. It's like, you want to tag in a mole? And Kenny's like, are you serious? He's like, I fly all the way here to help us win, and you won't even give me a chance? Which is so coincidentally, Johnny told Amanda to get him on the plane. So how's that coincidentally? So Kenny's like, everybody left me in the woods, but somehow I'm the bad guy, right? Hawk's like, he's still pissed. It makes sense he'd want revenge. Kenny like moves towards Hawk and he tells him, he's like, say something. Robbie breaks it up. He's like, this isn't even about Kenny. He's like, I'm the one who lost the match, me. And he like shoves him and like leaves the area. Miguel's like, Robbie. He like follows him. Then Axel like bumps like hard into Miguel. And Miguel's like to Sam, he's like, what the hell's that? And Sam's like, I don't know. Big liar. So then Chosen's like, team falling apart faster than Crunchy Taco. Falling apart faster than a Crunchy Taco. I like that one. I do love the Crunchy Tacos, but man, you can't eat them. You gotta eat them very carefully. Johnny's like, we haven't even faced his team yet, and Silver's already affecting us. And Johnny's like, ignoring him isn't helping. He wants to screw with us. Maybe we should screw with him right back. Then Kreese goes up to Silver. He's like, you better watch your back. Kim like kind of pushes him along, and Silver's like shakes his head. And Chosen says to Johnny, he's like, maybe use other enemy to do screwing, And Johnny like nods. So Miguel finds Robbie in this other area, like practicing some moves. He's like, yo, Robbie, what's going on? Well, he's like, you can see what's going on. I'm screwing it up out there. And Miguel's like, that's not on you. That was a team loss, okay? What's really going on? What happened while I was away? He's like, a lot. Tori ended things. She hooked up with Quan. He's like, what? He's like, yeah. And then I got drunk and did something stupid. I'm blowing it on and off the mat. He's like, you were right. You should have been captain. And Miguel's like, that's BS. He's like, you earned that spot. You're just in your head right now. I get it. Who wouldn't be? But the team is hanging on by a thread, and we need a leader. He's like, yeah, I know, but I'm not it. That's more BS. Look, Robbie, you led the charge for everyone to leave Silver. You got Kenny to go to Miyagi-Do. Like it or not, you're a natural-born leader, okay? You fight for what you believe in, and you don't give up. So this whole I'm not a leader thing is Robbie's like, BS? And Miguel's like, yes. So lead us, and we'll follow. I'll follow, even though I've been acting like an a-hole to you before we left. It wasn't you. Robbie's like, it's okay. And Miguel's like, when the time is right, you're going to step up like you always do, like the leader you are. So Tori's like watching it too from like across the way, and then she's like close to Zara. Or Zara comes like is closer, I guess, and she starts to live stream. What's up, my karate squad? It's like all the way to the quarterfinals, and the queen of the karate is still undefeated. What's my secret? All day I work hard, and she kind of looks at Tori, but that night I play even harder. And then she turns, isn't that right, Nichols? And then Tori grabs Zara's phone and like looks at the camera. She's like, it's true. Zara's real secret is she's a two-faced witch who doesn't give a poop about her sisters unless it's to steal her boyfriends. And she's like, give me that. And Kim comes up, enough. And to Zara, she's like, leave. And to Tori, she's like, I am tired of all this off-the-mat nonsense. You need to focus. In the locker room, Kreese finds his locker kind of open. His blade is gone. And in the hilt is a gift certificate to the spa. And he like crumples it. So he goes to the floor. He finds Silver talking to Wolf. He's like, hey. He's like, you thieving SOB. And he like, boom, hits him in the face. And Wolf like puts his hand up to stop Kreese. And he's like, where is it? And Silver laughs. He's like, and Kreese is like, where the hell is it? So he laughs again. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Gunther comes up. He's like, gentlemen, the only fighting we allow here is on the mat. He's like, do you want me to suspend you for the tournament? Kim comes up. Our deepest apologies, Mr. Braun. It's like, it will not happen again. And he's like, it better not. You don't want to see me angry. Okay, Bruce Banner. So she pulls Kreese away. She's like, when did I become a babysitter? And so then Kreese, I think he yells, he's like, this isn't over. And Silver's like, I look forward to next time or something like that. One of them said that, whatever. So then Daniel's like, he's like, look at that. It's working. And Johnny's like, I'm surprised you went along with the plan. He's like, what would Miyagi think? And Danny's like, part of defense is redirecting your opponent's momentum. And then Chosen's like, also dog cage, change a man. And Danny's like, maybe that too. So Johnny chuckles, and then they fist bump. It's like, when did people start fist bumping? I don't get the whole fist bump thing. The next match is between Cobra Kai and Tiger Strike, some other dojo. Tiger Strike gets a point. Kreese yells or tells Yoon to tag in Nichols. Kim tells him that's a bad idea. It's like, there's something wrong with your girl. It's like, she doesn't have her head in the game. He's like, she can handle anything. Then he tells Yoon again. So he runs up to Tori. She goes up against this big dude. He lands a kick, but not enough to get a point. The dude tags in this big girl, and Tori almost lands a hit, but then gets hit hard in the chest. So it's Tiger Strike 2, Cobra Kai 0. Then she gets flipped, head shoved down on the mat. She rolls out. Kim yells at her to focus, but the other fighter's like, your heart's not in it. You're in this, is it? And Tori looks over at Robbie, and she gets flipped, hit, point, Tiger Strike, winner. So Cobra Kai drops. So they won one, they lost one. Silver comes out of the bathroom or something like that. I don't know if he's doing drugs because he's like wiping his nose, I think. And he sees Kenny alone. Mr. Payne, glad to see you finally made it. And Kenny's like, what the hell do you want? Just to welcome you to your rightful place at the Sakai Takai. Too bad your new dojo doesn't feel the same. So he's like, wait, did he hear them talking or whatever? But then he's like, based on how they left you out in the cold in that first match. He's like, maybe they don't see the champion you I always have. It's like, whatever, dude. It's like, here's this guy doing karate for 2 weeks and he's a champion. You know, with the loopholes in a roster system, I'd make a spot for you on my team in a heartbeat. And Kenny's like, no, I couldn't do that to the Miyagi-Dos. And Terry's like, why? What have they done for you? Did you come here to win? My team is undefeated. You'd have a much better chance if you were actually on a winning team. Up to you, young man. And then Silver walks away. And Kenny looks at the current standings, the board. Iron Dragon's in first. And I'm pretty sure Hawk was like watching him from a distance. So Daniel tells them that they need to win this one to stay in the tournament. He's like, we know it's hard with Silver here, but we're not fighting his team now. And Johnny's like, we've heard this garbage going around about loyalty. Almost all of us trained somewhere else at some point. What matters is where our butts are right now. We're Miyagi-Do. Got it? And Miguel's like, come on, y'all, let's go. Then Hawk tells Dimitri, he's like, I saw Kenny talking to Silver. So it's Miyagi-Do versus Red and Torres or something like that. Miguel goes first. All his moves are getting blocked. He turns the tag Robbie in. He tells him, he's like, you got this. So he seems to be going slow. Everyone's slow. I don't know what's going on. But he manages to get a point. The guy gets up, more flips and twirls. Then Kenny's like, he says to tag him in. And Hawk's like, no, tag me in. So Miguel yells, he's like, tag Kenny in. And stupid Dimitri's like, do not tag Kenny. So Robbie's like confused. Then he hears Miguel in his head, lead us and we'll follow. So he gets in a fighting position, ducks a punch, tags in Kenny. And stupid Dimitri's like, and Kenny like freezes. Everyone's freezing on him. He hears Silver in his head. What have they done for you? Did you come here to win? So then it's like punch, block, twirl, whatever. Kenny gets a point. He tumbles forward and an uppercut gets another point, like back to back. So Miyagi-Do wins. And stupid Hawk, they're like smiling. They're like, oh yeah, and they lift Kenny up. It's like just like that. They're like, okay. And then as he's up on their shoulders, he does the Star-Lord, like winding the middle finger up, and he flips off Silver. It's like, I feel like they would see him, because if these fights are televised, if people are watching them somehow, someone would probably see that, and maybe it would be like, that's not allowed? I mean, good, whatever, sportsmanship type thing. So Gunther says that if they win their next match, they advance to the Tournament of Champions. Miguel's like, good job, Captain, to Robbie. And Daniel is happy and relieved. Then he sees the long-haired goon give Silver like a manila envelope. Kim goes by Chosen. She's like, I know it was you who stole Reese's Inujangdo. That's the blade. She's like, put it back. And Chosen's like, you confuse me for thief. And she's like, don't you know what you've done? Kreese is like dynamite, waiting to explode. And that blast can easily be directed your way. And Chosen's like, is that a threat? And she's like, it's a warning. I'd hate for you to make another mistake. Because he kind of said that they met by mistake or something like that to Daniel. So Gunther announces after the break, the first match is Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai. It's like, seriously, already? The look at a draw. And the locker room is silent. And then Robbie's like, come on, guys. We beat Cobra Kai before. We can do it again. Miguel's like, one more time. Let's send our captains into the final. And Sam's like, one last time, win or lose, this is our last time we'll fight together as a team. And Miguel's like, dang. He's like, I guess I never thought about it like that. After everything we've been through, this is it. And Robbie's like, so, how do we want to go out? And Dimitri's like, Eli? And then Hawk gets up. He says, I'm really sorry. They hug in the middle of the room. And Hawk's like, I didn't mean to hurt you. Dimitri's like, I know you didn't. He's like, I'm just scared of losing my best friend. He's like, I'm going to miss you so much. And Hawk's like, I'm always going to be your brother. They hug again. And Devin's like, okay, that's enough. There's no crying in karate. Sam and Devin laugh. Miguel gets up. He hugs Dimitri and Hawk. He says that they'll always be his brothers too. And he's like, we're a family, all of us. Robbie gets up and he quietly is like, who are we? And they're like, Miyagi-Do. Who are we? And then again, Miyagi-Do. So Daniel, Johnny are listening from the hall. And then, who are we? Miyagi-Do. And they're like inside, but they're like yelling. They got goofy grins. It's like, okay, they're happy with each other. They don't really seem like they're still in a mental fighting state. But whatever, they're family now. So maybe that'll be enough. Daniel and Johnny come in and they get like silence. And Daniel's like, we did have one real doozy of an inspirational speech planned. And Johnny's like, but it looks like you guys beat us to it. And Sam's like, our senseis taught us well. Eye roll for me. So then Johnny's like, all right, enough of this kumbaya crap. Time to get out there and kick some Cobra Kai ass. Yeah, yeah. So Gunther says Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai are tied. Whoever wins this advances. Whoever loses is eliminated. Kreese says to Quan, defeat does not exist in this dojo, does it? And he's like, no, sensei. Good. Kim says, Nichols, is the Keen Boy why you've been fighting so poorly? And Tori's like, yeah, I know what you're going to say. Forget about the boy. He's just a distraction. And she's like, no, whatever he's making you feel, confusion, heartache, anger, feel all of it and then use it. And she's like, what? You think you're the first girl that's ever been hurt by a boy? We can let them get away with it, or we can make them pay. So did she get hurt by Chosen? She really like him? So Robbie heads to the mat, and Tori bumps Quan out of the way, and Robbie's like, what are you doing? And she's like, don't act like you don't know. And he's like, looking at her, and she's like, you and Zara. And he's like speechless. And Ruff's like, fight. So Robbie's not ready. Tori comes at him, kicking and punching. Robbie's like blocking, stumbles back. Sam says like tag me in. Stupid Quan is like right next to Robbie. And it's like, how you say, lover's quarrel? And he like laughs. Sam gets hit, but no point. She knocks Tori down on her back. Quan tags in. Robbie says to Tori, how can you be mad at me when you ended things? And she's like, I said pause, not hook up with our enemies. And Robbie's like, so it's okay to hook up with your new teammates then? And she's like, what's that supposed to mean? He's like, you and Quan. So Quan gets a point on Sam. Cobra Kai 1, Miyagi-Do 0. Miguel tells her to tag him in. Quan tags out too. It's like, is he scared? So Tori's like, there is no me and Quan, you idiot. And he's like, what? She's like, your dumbass got played. So she's like hurt and disappointed, and Robbie slowly glares at Quan. Miguel gets a point, so it's 1-1. Yoon tags in, and Dimitri goes, so they both block. Hawk tags in. He does this like jumping strike with the squawk. It doesn't even do anything. I don't even think he hit him. So it's like they wasted the Hawk screech. Dimitri's like, now hurry, tag me back in. So kick, punch, and then he tags Hawk in again. Then some punches, and Dimitri's like, he's slowing down. He's like, don't let him tag out. So he's like reaching for a teammate. Hawk kicks his hand. Dimitri says, he's like, tag me back in. Chosen's like, binary bros are back. So then Dimitri tags Kenny in, and he like bends over so Kenny can like roll over on his back. It's like, well, what's the point of that? The dude reaches out, but now Hawk is in. He kicks his hand away again. Hawk grabs his hand and then like double kicks him in the chest. Another point. So Miyagi-Do 2, Cobra Kai 1. So the dude tags out. Quan's back in with his mouth hanging open. I mean, I don't know if he's a mouth breather or what. Miguel comes in, spins and blocks, but Miguel gets hit. Point Cobra Kai 2-2. Next point wins. So it's almost like slow motion. Miguel tags Robbie in. Quan goes to kick, but Robbie kicks him in the thigh to block. So then he laughs like, oh, Quan's like, it's about time. Let's see what you got. He like does a spin kick. Robbie kicks him like 4 times in the chest, like, but he doesn't get a point. I mean, I guess they're light kicks or whatever. And then Quan's like, okay. So he blocks, he kicks. Robbie is kicking Quan's hands and feet, and Quan's like getting tired. The other Cobra Kai, someone reaches to get tagged in, but obviously Quan's going to stay in, right? Because he's got this ego, he's got something to prove. He wants to beat Robbie. Robbie gets him on his back, and Quan seems surprised, but he gets up. Robbie grabs his leg. It's almost like a wrestling move. He grabs his leg, slams him onto his back, and then he spins. He gets around him. And then I don't understand this part. He grabs him by the hair and pulls his head back. So it's like, is that allowed? You can pull someone's hair? And Devin asks Johnny, what's Robbie doing? And Johnny's like, making it hurt. So while he's holding his head back, like behind him, he could have easily like hit him in the chest or did something to get a point, but he doesn't. So Quan breaks free, and Robbie like falls back, but Quan comes at him, but then he grabs him and flips him over, with using his like extended leg, flips him over he goes flying, bam, lands hard on his back. They both start getting up. So it's kind of silly because Robbie gets up, and it's like slow motion. He's got his back to Quan, so he's leaving himself wide open just to do this dramatic shot. He slowly turns around. Now Quan is frowning. His mouth is closed now. He's and so more kicks, more blocks. Quan's just like getting ticked off. Yeah! He like hits the mat one time. Kim and Kreese are just like silently watching. Like they're not even saying anything, not even directing. Like, dude, tag out. Then Quan yells, yeah. They both charge at each other. They both leap. Who's going to hit each other? Point. Miyagi-Do wins. With the win, Miyagi-Do advances to the Tournament of Champions. Yeah. Cheers. Daniel says to Johnny, congratulations. I like this part because he's like, congratulations, you finally beat Kreese. And Johnny's like, we finally beat Kreese. And then Daniel's like, well, I actually beat him in my first tournament. Because when he beat Johnny was fighting for Kreese. And then Johnny's like, don't make me hit you. So there's more cheers and hugs. So Quan's teammates like help him up and he like shoves him away. Then they start walking. Sam says to Tori, she's like, I wish you could be celebrating with us. Tori just like looks but doesn't say anything. And then Miguel tells Sam, she's like, she'll come around. So then Johnny cuts off Kreese. All the poop you pulled to get here and nothing to show for it. How's it feel? And Kreese like, this isn't over. And Johnny's like, the scoreboard says otherwise. Couldn't happen to a poopier guy. See you in another life, Kreese. So then Silver goes up to Daniel. So I wonder what's going to happen because it's like weird. So if we have one more episode of this right now, and then next year we'll have 5 more. So we got 6 more episodes. But it's like, is Cobra Kai done? Or is like one of the other teams somehow going to get eliminated, disqualified or something like that? So then Cobra Kai comes in. Because there's got to be some way for them to end up back in the quarter, or the champions. So we'll see. So Silver goes up to Daniel. Congratulations, LaRusso, on making it to the semis and for sticking Kreese on me with that dagger ruse. And Daniel's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, one more thing. I felt bad that your Miyagi investigation didn't lead anywhere. Luckily, I don't give up so easily. And he's like, a gift. He gives him the envelope. From me to you. Daniel's like, I don't want your gifts. And Silver's like, I think you do. And he kind of like pushes against his chest. So Daniel takes it, Silver walks away. He opens it and he kind of like freezes. Chosen's like, are you okay? Johnny's like, did Silver serve you with papers? And he's like, no, it's a Sakai Takai record from the year Mr. Miyagi participated. So we see Miyagi versus Claremont. Then the results, death. So Johnny's like, Mr. Miyagi's match ended in death? And Daniel's like, he killed his opponent. So that's the big secret. It's like, well, you could accidentally kill someone. It's not like you purposely killed someone. I mean, they said things were more violent back then. Kreese walks by the Cobra Kai kids and he goes into the locker room. His blade's back in his locker. So he pulls it out. This isn't over until I say it's over. More eye rolling. Oh my gosh. It's like, so what are you going to do? You're going to kill someone. Ugh. It's so silly. That's the end of episode 9. So we got one more episode right now, so we'll finish that next week. All right, Creature Commandos, season 1, episode 2, the Tourmaline Necklace. This is fine. I'm okay with the show. I don't, love it, which it seems like I'm saying that a lot lately. My thing is, it's the characters. It's wouldn't be like my first choice of characters, but it's fine. The nice thing about having these different characters, as I was watching this episode, I'm like, holy crap, because they're expendable in a sense. So you never know what can happen. I didn't really think about that, which obviously, that could be the nature of it, and that's probably why they were chosen. But it is kind of interesting things like oh, we don't know. We have this current roster. Doesn't mean this is going to be permanent. It starts off, we see like a bunch of chopped up body parts, and so it's continuing from like the first episode. So it's 1831. We see this Frankenstein monster. So his name's Eric. He's with his father, Victor. He's talking about how he yearns for a wife. Father, Victor, Victor isn't sure about this, but Eric Frankenstein, he's like, what is it to be human if not for love? And then Victor's like, I created you in the interest of exploring that infinitesimal space that falls between life and death. I have not yet learned enough from you to justify doing it again. And then he's like, you have a wife. How is it fair that you know love and I do not? And Victor's like, I'm merely saying if we give it time. And Frankenstein's like, some might suggest if you do not make me a wife, the only fair remedy would be for me to destroy yours, father. It's like, that would bring balance to life, they would say. And Victor's like, no one would say that. He's like, I would say that. Am I not someone? And so Victor's like, settle yourself, Eric. It's like, we're already proceeding. I'm only, sharing with you my doubts. It's like, this is what humans do, share feelings without becoming over-animated. It's like, this is what the mortician was able to acquire. And so he looks at the body parts. Eric Frankenstein gasps. He starts crying, oh my, so beautiful. And he holds up a severed head. This is the face of my true love. Then it cuts to the bride in the present at the big manor. Nina, the aquatic, whatever you want to call her, she asks Bride, she's like, you were born here? And Bride's like, yeah. And Nina's like, and why are we here? Meanwhile, Rick is sitting in the bathroom. He's got burns on his wrist. His nose is bleeding. Dr. Phosphorus, G.I. Robot, Weasel stare at him from the hall because, they're a little after the big fight with Dr. Phosphorus. They kind of move a little bit. Rick grunts. His thumbs moves towards the trigger button on the device. Then Ileana is at the sink. She's patching him up, basically. So she closes the door. As she sees the device and asks, what's it do, he says that if he presses the button, it activates an unbearably painful jolt directly into their brains. So she's like, is cruel, no? And he's like, is the point, yes. So she said she needs to get his shirt off because his wounds need cleaning. And as he's taking his shirt off, she's checking him out, glancing at him. And she's like, so with remote, you controlled him? And he's like, hypothetically, they haven't proven themselves to be extraordinarily obedient. And she's like, and this skeleton man, Dr. Phosphorus? He's like, yeah. He tried to kill you to get it? He's like, yeah. Quite a team. He's like, I promise I'll get these folks under control and I'll keep you safe, don't worry. She's like, yo, such a kind man. That is so rare here in Pokolistan. And then she's looking at the scars on his chest. She's like, I suppose tonight was not your first battle. So at the manor, it's raining. Bride is wandering around. Nina's just kind of following her. She's not sure why they're there. Nina looks at a family portrait hanging, and she's like, are those your parents? And she's like, Tch. And Nina's like, don't tisk me. That's not cool. You can say no. How would I know who they are? And then the bride's like, this was his home for work, not the family. They lived up the road. So Bride continues, she goes up some stairs. Nina follows her with a sigh. Then she sees this big room. And Nina's like, whoa. She's like, my father was a scientist, but he never had anything like this. And Bride's like, Victor was, if nothing else, a renegade. So Bride walks up to the operating table. Here, I was born here. So flashback to the lightning striking, energy going into her body, screams, and then the switch is turned off. She's like, I think she's like bomb or something like that. Frankenstein's Eric standing there with some pathetic looking flowers. My love. And Victor tells him to wait. He's like, she must gather her senses. And he talks about a baby being in the womb for 9 months, having time to adjust and acclimate. She's like, but, he's like, your bride came from nothing to something in an instant. She has no tether. Doesn't know where she is or who we are. She is but a cluster of fear and not knowing. So he tries to comfort her, and he asks her to stop stirring, says everything will be fine. And then Frankenstein practically shoves the flowers in her face, and then when he moves them, his face right there, he's like, these are for you. And she screams. He's like, but I picked these for you. She just screams some more. In the present, Nina says that, she's like, that sounds horrible. And Bride's like, well, birth is always horrible. God's gift to humans is he lets you forget it. And science isn't so forgiving. And Nina's like, I'm not human. And Bride's like, oh, stop with the bluff, fish. You're the only one of us who is. We're monsters. You're a human being with gills. And Nina's like, the world does not see it this way. So Bride sighs. She's like, well, when has the world ever been right? And Nina's like, And she's like, what are we looking for? And she's like, soon, the general is going to notice we're missing, and we'll have to feel that awful shock again. The Bride's like, I felt worse. And Nina's like, I do not believe you. And Bride's like, maybe because I'm lying. So Nina's like, what are you looking for? And Bride's like, a tourmaline necklace. It should be here somewhere. Nina's like, what's tourmaline? So Bride's like, a gemstone, pinkish. So there's another flashback. Victor is teaching her words. Eric Frankenstein, he's like, why is this drudgery so important? And Victor says, you want a bride who can speak, don't you? And he just grunts like, words get in the way of truth, drowning out the caterwaul of one's heart. So Victor holds up the necklace and asks, he's like, what is this? And she's like, pretty. He's like, yes, it's pretty, but what's it called? So she thinks about it, and she's like, necklace. So in the present, Nina asks if they find a necklace, can they go back? And Bride's like, yes, because her complaining and moaning is worse than being enslaved by that gung-ho jarhead. One of the sons radios another, is like, yeah, there's 2 of them in the manor and the rest must be back at the castle. So Cersei's like, just give me the dress. Ileana, she's trying to get close to Rick again. She's asking like, where did this scar come from? What about this one? And he's like, we can't go through this again. But she just keeps like pursuing. And, he's like, it would be unethical. And she's like, do not treat me like a child. She's like, I am soon to be queen of this country, and I get what I want. So she presses her lips against his, and he's like, and he finally gives in. So it's about to begin. Phosphorus, Weasel, and G.I. Robot are still outside the door. They're listening. You hear just like banging and moaning and whatever they're doing. Alexei comes up, the leader of her guards. He's like, have you seen General Flag? And they're like, yeah, why? And he's like, he should be informed that 2 of your teammates have left the grounds. Phosphorus like, well, he's in there. And Alexei, he's like, you should probably give him 30 seconds. Although he's older, with more experience, so maybe give him a full minute. Alexei's like, this is not funny. Why are you smiling? And Phosphorus like, I'm a freaking skeleton. It's like, it looks like I'm smiling even when I'm not. He's like, you are not smiling? And he's like, oh, I am, but you can't tell that. There's more banging and moaning inside. Alexei's like, may I knock now? Phosphorus holds up a finger. He's like, wait. Bride is walking through the hall. She opens this door to a bedroom. Flashback. She's hiding behind like one of the posts, like the 4-post bed. Victor tells Eric that he's frightening her, and she's sobbing, no. And Eric's like, why won't you let me touch her? And then he grabs her and like pushes her against the wall, and she like gasps. He's like, I love you. And it's just more screams. Victor puts his hand on his back and he's like, I'm sorry. So then Eric grabs him by the throat and lifts him. He's like, you failed. And he's like, yes. He's like crying. He's like, you made her for me. She is to love me. So he tosses him against like the foot of the bed, and Victor coughs and everything. Eric sobs. He runs out of the room. Then Bride goes up, checks on Victor. He's like, I'm fine, my dear. It is fine. In the present, she kneels by the bed and she's like sobbing. So Nina finds something, and then she's like, is this it? So flashback, Victor holds out like a wooden horse and asks her what it is, and she's like, a horse, or I think, and he's like, well, and what else? She's like, a toy for children. He's like, yes, precisely. Then he puts his finger under his nose. He has like a fake mustache, and she's like, mustache, and she laughs. He's like, oh, you don't like how I look with the mustache, do you? And then he's like, I am a silly mustachioed man. And in his normal voice, he's like, yes, my dear, you are doing fabulously. So more laughing and everything like that. And she's like very close to him. And then he's like, I just remembered, I got you a gift. And so he gives her a box, and it's wrapped. She looks and shakes it. She's like, oh, it is good gift. He's like, no, that's not the gift. You opened the wrapping and inside the gift. So she's like, you want me to break paper? He's like, yes, tear it off. Inside is a necklace. He's like, I saw how much you liked it. It was from one of the cadavers. Mattered to no one. So I thought, and he like kind of scoffs. He's like, here, let me put it on you. And she looks in the mirror. Beautiful. In the present, Nina says, it means something to you? And then Bride just scoffs, and she grabs it. So Nina's like, fine, don't answer. I don't care. Can we go now? So there's like lightning and a shadow against the wall. Bride gasps. Cersei's out floating outside the window with like her hands glowing. And she sends a blast of magic energy into the room. At the castle, Rick yells at Phosphorus while he's buckling his pants. He's like, you should have let Alexei tell me the Bride and Nina were gone. And Phosphorus is like, sue me for being a bro and doing you a favor. Seems according to you, I can't do anything right. So Rick's like, oh, I'd forgo the martyr complex considering 2 hours ago you were trying to murder me. And then G.I. Robot's like, is this one a dirty Nazi general? And his hand turns into a gun. He's like, no, he's not a Nazi, G.I. He's like, oh, okay. They get into like this armored truck. Alexei, like, where are we going? So Rick shows him on the screen. He says these are the trackers in their body. So Alexei's like, oh, I know where that is. So Rick's like, go. And Alexei's like, adventure coming. What's up? So the suns are starting to surround the manor. Cersei's floating outside. Inside, Nina, she groans on the floor. She starts to slowly get up. Cersei prepares like another blast, but Bride pushes her out of the way, and Cersei goes like around to another window. Bride throws like the four-post bed out the window. Suns are starting to come up like down the hall towards them. One kicks open a door, and then Bride throws a dresser or something like that, a big armoire, and that was at him. He goes flying out against the wall in the hall. She stomps on the floor a couple times, and then the floor falls beneath her and Nina, so they fall down. She's carrying Nina like under her arm. She goes down the hall. One of the sons come around the corner and points a gun at her. She like backhands him, like hits him in the chin, slams against the wall, and then she takes out like 4 more dudes and like armored dudes, and then jumps out the window while carrying Nina, lands on a dude, and then takes his rifle. They're surrounded in a circle by bros, by the sons of, I forget what they're called, sons of something, sons of Cersei, sons of Amazons, sons of Themyscira, maybe that was it. But she just shoots like all of them like in a circle. And then she complains or Nina complains of gunfire. She's like, that was right in my ear. So the Bride shoots up at Cersei while she's in the sky, but Cersei gathers like the bullet with magic. The Bride curses because she hates magic. She yells at Nina to get out of there. Then Cersei like flings like the magically gathered bullets back. Bride gets slammed back against like an army truck. She picks it up, throws it at Cersei. Cersei obviously magically sliced it in half, but she doesn't realize that Bride had leaped up after it. So she's like slugs her, when the truck splits open. They slam back into the manor. Bride keeps like punching her. They're flying through like walls. So Bride looks like she's getting the upper hand. She manages to punch Cersei again. She grabs her legs, like does like a Thor or like a Hulk versus Loki, like slams her, and then grabs her again by the throat, and she's about to hit her, but then Cersei teleports away. She teleports like behind her and hits her a few times, slams her into the operating table, and then, because I think she might have gotten distracted when she saw like the table again, because again, that's where she was born, and that's where something else happened, as Cersei like pushes her, or punches her like over like on a table. She's thinking back to her and Victor on the table, doing a little hanky-panky. So, and then I'm not sure, I think Eric Frankenstein saw them because there's a shot of him crying. So he might have seen them doing some doot-doot-doot. So the Bride's like, she like rears over, she's spitting blood. Cersei grabs like a metal pipe and she's like, you've been sent by the U.S. government. Bing! Whacks her in the head with the pipe. And then she puts like a foot on her chest, bends down. She's kind of pointing like finger guns at her head. And she's like, well, I have a message for your leaders. And she powers up some magic, but then Bride grabs like a sharp piece of rubble, stabs like Cersei's in ankle, so the magic blast kind of goes off to the side of Bride's head that doesn't hit her. She gets up, like power kick, wham, kicks Cersei in the crotch. And then she grabs her and dives out the window. Outside, Nina's trying to radio flag, and starts asking her, he's like, what? And then she cuts them off, saying that they're being attacked by Cersei and her troops. She goes over this like little mountain, only to find like several sons waiting. That's not going to be good. Bride is still pounding on Cersei. He's like hitting her in the face over and over again. But then she raises both hands to slam down. But then Cersei grabs her wrists and then magically turns her arms into what do they call the inflatable like air dancer card dealer guys? And she's like, WTF? She got these big floppy arms now. Nina starts running away. She's getting shot at behind. Bride tries to hit Cersei with her new arms, but it's just they're not doing anything because they're just flopping around. Cersei hits her like 3 times and kicks her back, so she's leaning against like the railing at the roof of the manor. She gives her a power headbutt, and then Bride kind of like spits some blood out, and then Cersei just like shoves her off the roof. Nina, meanwhile, is down below. She gasps. Behind her, the dudes, like, they shoot her in the back, and they like shatter her helmet. So she goes down. She's like gasping, and then Bride slams on. She hits like an awning or something like that, and then she like kind of lands next to Nina, and then Bride's just like kind of staring up. And here's the thing. This is what I was talking about. Are we going to see the death of these 2 characters? So there's flashback. Like she brought some lemonade to Victor, but then Eric's like, I did what I had to. Don't you understand? He and his wretched giggling and his horrid gift-giving powers were the only obstacles to our love. So he's like, we see him hanging upside down on a table, which is like upright vertically. And so he's like, now we can be together. And she slugs him. There's a wider shot as they're fighting. It looks like Victor's like ripped in half. And then as they're fighting, a candle got knocked over, so like the carpets, and then the drapes go up in flames. Then she's screaming as she's choking him. He like flips her over, and then the necklace falls off, so that's why she lost it. And then she like hits him back, and then he lands in some flames, starts screaming, and she looks at Victor, like just his body there. She sobs. She runs out of the house, and then it's so they got this music going. Like it's like, oh, here, let's play some cool and hip music, but this part right here, it's just like just like all these like cut scenes, like just images. It was kind of jarring. It was just I didn't like that, how that was. But then it like jumps back to 1852. So meanwhile, we see them fighting. Like while this I forget who the band was playing. I guess maybe I'm not hip enough to know this. But it goes to 1852. She's like working in a market, and Eric spies her on her. He sees her. He goes up to her, and she slaps him with a fish. Some more fighting. Then it goes to 1880. I think it's like in the Wild West. They're like in a saloon or a brothel or something like that. And then they're like shooting at each other. Then she's like riding on a horse, 1895, like through the desert. And he's like chasing her. His tongue's like sticking out for some reason off the side. It's like, what is he, a dog? Then it's like 1912, they're underwater. They're wearing like helmet, like, whatever, diving helmets. She stabs him through the helmet. Then 1923, it's like, the roaring 20s at a club. And, he's on top of her trying to kiss her. She knocks him off. 1941 war. I think she's like a nurse, but they're shooting at each other. Then it goes 1964, so it's early like hippie days, fighting in the city. 1991, so it's like grunge music or whatever. They're on stage, or Lollapalooza or something like that. And then there's like several more scenes. And then she looks at Nina, is in the present, and she says sorry. And then gasping, Nina's like, "Go, fudge yourself." The bride smiles, and then there's like a bro, one of the sons, standing over her, slams her in the face with the butt of a rifle. And that's the end of the episode. So, are they going to be dead? Is this it for them? Because I don't know the full, since I don't know anything about Nina, I don't know if she's an actual character, but she has to have this helmet with the water. She's, I don't think she's Atlantean. I don't remember what they said. But, she needs that to breathe. So is she going to die? And the bride, her arms have turned into the inflatable guys, and she just took quite the beating and fell off. I think bride would be fine. I think she'll survive, maybe, unless, who knows. But that was episode 2. So like I said, there's 3 is out now. You can watch it, or you can wait till next week and hear what I have to say about it. So it's good. That the animation is slick and all that, and it's a fine production. I haven't fallen in love with the characters yet, so we'll see. Okay, then Skeleton Crew. And I never know with these shows. Is it just called Skeleton Crew, or is it called Star Wars Skeleton Crew? I think if it's just called Skeleton Crew, people might be like, what's Skeleton Crew? But it's like, oh, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I don't know. Season 1, episode 3, very interesting as an astrogration problem. That's like such a weird title. They say it in the episode. Anyways, back on at Aden. Wendell's sitting, I don't know if it's his living room. The other parents are there. Numa, Neil's mom, gives him some tea or something like that, something hot, and says that he must be exhausted. Fern's mom, Farah, who we saw, says that the safety droids will find the kids. They'll report in soon. KB's moms, and yes, 2 moms, so get outraged if you have a problem with someone having 2 moms. Oh my gosh. KB's mom says that what worries them is that they lost the signal to KB's life monitor. So Farah says that when she was a kid, her and her friends would run away, and the safety droids always found them eventually. Then a droid chimes at the door, says that he's been sent by the supervisor, capital S supervisor, according to the closed caption. He's like, your children are on a starship that has illegally exited the barrier. And Numa's like, what? And Wenda's like, is the supervisor going to contact the Republic for help? Because the starship is outside the barrier, the supervisor is unable to risk any contact. So why can't there be any contact? Why are they hidden in this barrier? KB's mom started complaining. He's like, there are kids. Our daughter has very urgent medical needs. And Farrah's like, I'm submitting a petition for an immediate audience with the supervisor. And Wendell just sits without saying a word. And he just takes off his glasses. So it's like, obviously, we're seeing Wendo's like this big jerk, but I'm sure what it is, there's something has to do where he's probably heartbroken that Wim's mom is dead, and he, does care for the kid, even though he's such a jerk to him. But okay, so guards are going up to like other prisoners in their cell, like zapping them with like stun batons, whatever. Then Jude Law, which the closed captions refer to him as Man, so he guides the kids out. KB, she doesn't want to cross the hall. She doesn't want to get seen. But Fern tries like calling over, and KB's like, I can't. They'll see me. So Man, Jude Law, he kind of like motions towards the guards, like, like with the force, and they hear like a like something. So the guards go away, and then KB like can cross over. And Wim's like, how do you do that? So Man's like, practice. Like, let's get to your ship. Fern's like, we never agreed to give you a ride. Wim's like, but he's helping us. And KB's like, if you could escape at any time, what did you need our help for? So Man is like, without a ship, what use is freeing myself from the cell? He's like, I waited. The Force provided. And Fern's like, there's no treasure on our planet if that's what you're after. And he like flips a switch on the wall, whatever, for this like hatch. He's like, that's not what I'm after. And Wim's like, yeah, because he's a Jedi. And then he said his name is Jod, J-O-D, Jod Nawood, I think it was. I think it was N-A space Nawood, not Nawood. But yeah. And he's like, and you are? Neil's like, and Neil says, he says his name right away. And Wim's like, I'm Wim. So they're walking, and he tells him, he's like, stop. So then someone like walks in front of him. Wim's like, he can sense them around the corner. And Man's like, you know much of the Force. So then he tells them to wait, and they go forward. And Fern says that 33 told him not to trust anyone. And the guy was in jail, and Wim's like, well, so are we. And Neil's like, and he has magic powers. Fern's like, why should we trust him? Wim says that Jedis are the defenders of justice and keepers of peace of galaxy. Everybody knows that. Then they hear like a thud and grunting. So then an object like clings. So he comes back. He has a blaster now. So they're trying to figure out which way to go. So Man says, he's like, there are many living things this way, like to the right. And then he points to the left. He's like, that way is empty. So Fern wants to go to empty way. He's like, it's easier to hide in a crowd than an empty corridor. Then KB like stops them to duck against the wall. This like probe droid floats by. Fern's like, so I guess KB's got the Force too. And Man's like, the Force flows through all of us. So they've reached kind of like the common area. There's lots of aliens, pirates. There's even Jawas there. So they walk through, they kind of like, he covers up his, puts his cloak on or his hood. So they get to like one of the ferries. Fern's like, that was too easy. And Man's like, you're welcome. Now, which one of these ships is yours? Wim starts to like try saying something about their ships. Like, well, you see the thing? And Fern's like, he's just trying to say it's a wreck, but he's too embarrassed. Wim's like, well, technically it shouldn't fly. Neil's like, and it smells funny. Man's like, well, it can't smell as bad as, and he's like, wait. And he sees their ship. He's like, not that. On the ship, he hits some controls. He asks if they're ready to kiss this rock goodbye. Fern's like, well, that depends where we're going. And he says that he has an old friend in mind. She's an expert in star maps, lost planets, that kind of thing. He's like, she'll find your home. Neil's like, what about SM-33? And Man's like, what about what? KB's like, our droid. He knows how to operate and repair the ship. Man's like, oh, we'll be fine without him. And Neil's like, but he saved us. And Fern's like, yeah, we need him. Man's like, we're not going back for a droid. And Fern's like, I thought the Jedi never left the man behind. He starts to say, he's like, that's not... And then he just like smiles, catches himself. He's like, first, it's a droid. Second, that's not a Jedi thing that Jedi say. Fern's like, if you don't go, I will. Neil's like, and me. And Wim's like, me too. And KB's like, she joins in. She's like, we'll go together. Man's like, if you try that, you'll be recaptured and back in the brig before you can say parsec. Wim's like, well, you can do it, right? You can do anything. And Fern's like, yeah, you're a Jedi, right? And he looks at Fern. Of course, I'll do it. You stay here, where it's safe. And then Wim hands him his blaster. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, S-37 what? And KB's like, SM-37. He was disabled right before we were captured. Neil's like, oh, and don't forget about the rat that lives in his eye hole. So Neil kind of leans forward, and then Man turns back. He's like, don't touch anything. He's like, don't want to blast off accidentally before I get back. So he leaves. Fern's like, we should blast off before he gets back. Wim's like, what? So Man's walking through the crowd. Someone named Beef is like, Silvo's escaped from the brig. So it's like, wait, so are they saying that man's name is Silvo? He said his name was Jod. Jod Nawood. So he pulls the cloak like tighter. They're like, we're search every stall, leave no stone unturned. He finds a room with a bunch of droids. He starts like, he turns them up. I am blah, 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 blah. And then he turns them off when it's not the one he wants. So then there's even like an old battle droid, and it like kind of falls apart, whatever. Then he sees one kind of hanging on chains. So when he turns it on, it's like, what do you want? And he's like, SM-33? And he's like, might be, depends who's asking. And then there's a squeak. The mouse sticks its head out of the eye hole. So Jod, he's like, I'll take that as a yes. He turns them off. He starts like, he brings a cart over, starts putting them on there. Someone calls from behind, Captain Silvo, is that you? Jod pulls out his blaster, and but then he turns, Benjar. It's like, Benjar Panic or something like that. You old blood. And then Benjar's like, Brutus let you out, did he? And Silvo's like, he says he has to shove off. He's borrowing this old droid. Benjar's like, well, Brutus isn't half the captain you were. And he's like, why did he finally let you out? And Jod's like, I let myself out. I just might have finally found the big score I always talked of. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. Wouldn't have nothing to do with those children that showed up, eh? And Jude Law's like, you're not going to tell a soul you saw me, right? He's like, well, that's the problem, because I'd be remiss if I didn't report it to Captain Brutus. Let's call the guards, have a little chat. So the kids are arguing whether or not Jod is a Jedi. Fern says that there's a million ways to make it look like something is floating. William's like, name one. And she's like, repulsor lift, tractor beam, magnets, mirrors, string. And he's like, string? And she's like really thin string. And he like scoffs, like, you're just jealous of him. And she's like, he just wants to steal our treasure. And William's like, there is no treasure. And she's like, he doesn't know that. So Jod, Silvo, whatever his name is, he's like getting shot at as he takes this little ferry craft to the ship. William's like, he has a friend that can get us home, and I vote that we take him. So does Neil. And Fern's like, fine. Then me and KB vote we leave him, and that's a tie. And tie goes to the captain, which is me. So KB's like, we can't do this on our own. So Wim and Neil hear something outside. Neil points to the window. He's like, guys, Silvo's getting shot at. He comes at them, docks hard, and he drags 33 on. So he yells at him. He's like, hit the throttle. He goes into the pilot seat. He tries flying away, but they're stuck. They're like hooked. He's like, oh, it's probably a fuel line. He tries again. A very well-made fuel line. He starts like flying, and then he kind of turns around, kind of like bumps the thing around. He's like, he starts like going around. So they knock into like the little ship chasing him. Brutus yells like from the port. He's like, that's Silvo. He's trapped on the line. He's like, arm the cannon. So after flying around, they're kind of like dragging like these other big ships. So Jod, Silvo, the closed caption I think calls him Jod. He decides to use the hyperdrive, but KB's like, isn't it dangerous to go into hyperdrive if we're tied to something? So they take off. Whoosh, the fuel line snaps. It whips back at the spaceport, whoosh, like knocks some people out. And I'm sure it killed them or something like that. Brutus just watches angrily, and one dude's like, do you want me to go after them? Brutus like, put a bounty on his head. He's like, I want him groveling at my feet and those pups. So KB, Wim, and Neil, they look at 33. Neil, KB turns him on, I think. Or he is like, intruder on board. And Neil's like, that's Jod. He's good. He's on our side. He saved us. And you. And Wim's like, he's a Jedi. And 33's like, Jedi? And Wim's like, you can trust him. He's taking us to find his friend who can help us find Atten. And 33's like, can't say I remember no Atten. And then so Jod made some food or something like that because he comes with a bowl. And he could hear them talking. So then he's like, so at Atten. And Neil's stomach kind of gurgles. Jod spoons all of the grub out of his bowl. Then he holds out the bowl to 33. He's like, droid, clean this up. 33 is just looking at him, so he just like sets it next to him. And he looks at the other. He's like, there's more in the pot. So Wim and Neil jump up. They're like, mine. The girls go over too. Wim's like, there's enough for everyone. 33 just pushes the bowl on the floor. Because he's like, screw you, I'm not cleaning your bowl. Wim looks around. He's like, I think he's looking for new clothes or something like that. And he looks at the guy who's like stabbed and pinned against the wall. He pulls the blade out and like kind of looks at it. 33 walks up to him. Looking for something, Jedi? And he's like, something. He's like, you might want to clean up around here. And he's like, who are you to give orders? He's like, never mind who I am. So they're like, kind of like looking eye to eye. Then 33 makes himself taller to look down at Jod. Jod kind of smiles and like pats him on the arm. He's like, what ship is this? Are these kids really from At-Atten? I'll tell you what I know and mark my words. And he like pokes him in the chest. He's like, for I won't be repeating them again. It's like, they're definitely from somewhere. And then 33 walks away. It's like, yeah, of course they're from somewhere. So Jod kind of like rubs his chest because he got poked so hard. And then 33 peers back around the corner. And he leaves again. So it didn't make any sense. Neil tries feeding the rat, whatever. Then he asks the others, like, do you really think there's treasure back home? Wim scoffs. He's like, yeah, right. Neil says that maybe it has to do with the great work. And Fern's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, like, what does your mom do? And Fern's like, she works in admin. KB is like, mine are analysts. And Neil's like, mine too. Wim's like, so what? And Neil's like, so what do they analyze? And Wim scoffs, something boring. And he's like, looking at the credits. He has like 8 chips or something like that. He's like, something boring about money. Then Jod comes in. Wim like flips his bowl over to cover the credits on the table. Neil, for some reason, flipped his bowl over. I don't think he was covering anything. Wim's like, oh, the food was good. And then Jod's like, okay, time to get some sleep. And Fern's like, but I'm not even tired. Next scene, she's like out cold. The boys are like sleeping in 2 hammocks. And he just kind of looks at him. KB's lying on her side with her head like propped up on her arm. And he's like, you do sleep, don't you? Then she sits up and flips like up her visor. She's like, it's unlikely you're telling the truth about being a Jedi. And he's like, you don't trust me? She's like, I calculated the odds. He's like, not everything in the galaxy can be calculated. Sometimes you have to trust your gut. And he motions his fingers and then the lights dim. He's like, we reach my friend's moon in a few hours. I suggest you get some rest. They exit hyperspace. Fern and KB get out on a ramp. KB's like, the moon is cold. And Jod's like, you'll warm up when you start walking. Let's go. He's like, stay here. You'll never get home. So they walk. KB's like, why don't we land closer? And Jod said that they need to exercise. Fern's like, you're trying to hide the ship. And he's like, listen, this friend of mine, we go way back, but I don't trust her. And they're kind of confused. Not 100% in that. She might stab you in the back. They're like, stab us? And he's like, not literally. He's like, does that make sense? They just stare at him. Neil shakes his head. He's like, never mind. You'll understand when you're old. So then they're approaching the structure. Inside, this was a little weird because there's a woman on a radio trying to contact someone, or it was like several people, because someone's like, it's him, all right, and he's got a flock of children. And it almost sounds like the voices are similar, but kind of different. So I don't know if it's like it's a different person. Someone's like, might be kidnapped, poor things. And then maybe another one's like, you've got to help them. So then the closed caption says, woman 2 is like, I'll dispatch a patrol to make the arrest. And woman 1's like, good, I'll stall him as long as I can. So woman 1 is the person that will be seen. So they arrive at the structure. Jod knocks. Then there's this like answering thing, like a Jabba's, like a little stick with a ball in it. So it's woman 1, according to closed captions. Now, who could be knocking on my door? He's like, hello, Kim. And I think it's like KY apostrophe HMM or KHYMM, something like that. But it's basically Kim. And he pulls off his hood. And she's like, Crimson Jack. Brutus call him Silvo, and they call him Captain Silvo. She's calling him Crimson Jack. She's like, you're looking well. So 2 more of those things pop out. And Neil's like, Crimson Jack, who's that? And he Jod like kind of wags his finger at him. And then the voice, the things, woman 1 says, and you brought some children. Why, Jack, they aren't all yours, are they? So he doesn't answer it. He's like, I know I left things in such a mess between us, but I couldn't show my face again until I brought you something really special. And she's like, in that case, how could I refuse such a dear old trusted friend? So the thing retracts, door opens, they go in. So she calls him in. She's like, just don't touch anything. And like sarcastically, he's like, place looks great. I see you've cleaned up. And she's like, trinkets and and tokens or something like that from 1,000 different worlds. Fern's like, 1,000 worlds? And then the voice like, there's more than that, my girl. So some machinery thing like spins around, and there's like this 2 foot tall, like owl looking person like standing there. And John's like, should we get down to business? So she flies down. She's like, quiet, Jack. So she's like, children, what in the depths are you doing with him? Oh, this will never do. And Wim's like, he rescued us. Neil's like, he said that you could show us the way home. She's like, I got maps for every star in the galaxy and hyperspace routes between them all. He's like, where are you from, children? John's like, let me explain. And Neil blurts out, at Atten. He's like, you've heard of it, right? And she's like, at Atten? At Atten? And she flies away. John yells out, he's like, it's true. And she's like, at Atten is very interesting as an astrogation problem, which is the name of the episode. So she comes down with something rolled up. Wim's like, is that a map? And she's like, no, you see, your home has been purposely hidden from the rest of the galaxy. There is no map to at Atten. No, this scroll depicts the jewels of the old republic. Planets of wonder kept hidden for their protection. Long ago, they were all destroyed except for one, at Atten, now only remembered in children's stories, pirates' shanties, and rumors believed by fools. But I always believed. Fern's like, we need a map. And John's like, no, we don't. You're the map. And Kim's like, precisely, come, we'll search my archives by astronomical feature. So she flies to this other council. So she says, like, tell her something, whatever. And they're like, no, there's nothing. It's totally boring. And then she's like, any nearby planets? And KB says in school they learned about Coruscant and Alderaan. And she's like, fascinating. She says something about Alderaan. It's like, oh, you've been away from, or something like that. So they must not know that Alderaan's gone. So Neil's like, part of the great work is that we're supposed to stay inside the barrier. And Kim's like, great work, barrier? Tell me, what does this barrier look like? And I think KB's like, you see it at night, it's cloudy. Fern's like, this is never gonna work. And KB's like, but Fern, we've already eliminated 99.9%. So Fern has like kind of slung a bag over her shoulder, and Kim flies up. What? What's that symbol? And she's like, it's because I'm head of the class. My mom makes me wear it. So she like squawks. I've never seen Palmarish numerals in a Proto-Republic artifacts. We'll cross-reference this and the jewels of the Old Republic, planets in nebulae or our estimated orbital parameters. This may actually work. And John's like, you have it? Is that it? She's like, yes, well, no, actually. So many parameters to run. It would take who knows how long. And he like looks at her. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were stalling. And she's like, oh, Crimson Jack, you don't trust me? So he's like behind her, he kind of leans forward. Then he reaches for this like little radio something tablet thing on the counter. He spins a little, or touches a knob, and his voice is like, come in, Observatory Moon, come in. And she like squawks. It's like, this is Sector Police, inbound to your position. And then she's like, you wouldn't shoot me, not in front of the children. So on the radio's like, and in any update from Crimson Jack? He's like, called him off. She's like, children, listen, Crimson Jack is a scoundrel. All he wants is your treasure. He whispers, call them off. She's like, I call these X-Wings to help you. Run for it. So she flies up. He pulls out his blaster. He shoots. Kim flies into him, knocks him over. And then she flies at him with like talons out, whatever. She yells that he'll betray them, but he's like, I told you she was a backstabber. So he like tosses her to the side. She hits like a stack of books, and like books fall on top of her. Then a machine beeps, and there's like a little data chip. So he pulls it out. He's like, got it. Then he blasts the computer screen. He's like, let's go. Wim whispers like, what happened? Jod yells. He's like, we got the coordinates. He's like, come on. So they run after him. KB hears a squawk, so she goes back, and she asks Kim if she's okay, and she's like, I'll be fine. She's like, but what are you going to do? Go with Jack? And KB's like, he got us this far, but I don't trust him, not really. And she's like, what did he tell you? Trust your gut, use your head, get the truth, and if you ever need help, you can call me anytime. So KB nods and leaves. But it's like, how is she going to call her? She didn't give her a number or anything. So they're running, they reach the ship, and he's like kind of rushing them. KB's like, we're not going anywhere with you until you tell us the truth. He's like, there's no time. KB's like, who are you? And Fern's like, why did Kim call you Crimson Jack? He's like, well, I'll tell you the whole long story on the ship. So he moves to the ramp, but they like kind of push him down. Fern calls 33. He's at the top of the ramp. And she's like, we are not going anywhere until you tell us who you are. So there's like a couple ships circling nearby. He's like, well, you're not going anywhere without coordinates. So he starts waving, here we are. They tell him like, no. And you're like, to stop. So he's like, you want to know who I am? Yeah? You want to know? I'll tell you. On the ship. KB's like, tell us now. The truth. So the officer's like, the truth, the truth, the truth. He's like, the truth is, I'm just like you, okay? I'm lost. I'm alone. And Wim's like, but you are a Jedi, right? He's like, I never actually said that. He's like, what? And Fern's like, I knew it. Neil's like, how do you make things float? He's like, listen, Kim's goons are not going to help you get home. But you and me, we want the same thing. Let's make a deal. I'll get you home. I'll do the right thing. Maybe get a little reward. We'll make a partnership. And KB's like, not partners. You work for us. Deal? He looks at like 33, who has like a blowtorch in his hand. Deal. So they run. They get on. 33 says that they can't leave now. The launch support system is half disassembled. So Jod's like, reassemble it. We're taking off. So 2 X-Wings like turn towards them. Fern's like, what now? He's like, I'd get the hyperdrive ready. And Neil's like, right. How do we do that? KB's like, she says that she'll get 33. He's like, no. He's like, rely on a droid too long, they'll let you down. So the X-Wing's like, choo, 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 shoot him a few times. So they go circle around again. They radio, Crimson Jack, land the ship immediately. He turns the comms off. Jod says that they have to make it to the other side of the moon to do the jump. Neil's like, we'll never get that far. He's like, as soon as we see daylight, well, then we made it. So he wants Neil to take the controls and evade them. Wim's like, wow. He's like outraged that he asked Neil to fly the ship. He tells Fern and Wim to come with him. She's like, I'm the captain and you work for us. Wim's like, why is Neil flying the ship? Why can't I? KB puts a chip into the computer. He puts Fern in this gun turret. It goes like up. Then he calls down this other one. Wim smiles, jumps into the seat. It goes up. And then he the thing starts spinning, and it's just like shooting like all over the place. And so they're almost ready to jump. They kind of like someone hits the X-Wing, gets a shot. He's like, I did it. And she's like, that was my shot. And then they're almost ready. Shoom, they take off. So then the X-Wings land. They got shot, so one of the cockpits like smoking. And Kim's like, what are you doing? You're letting them get away. The pilot's like, it's too risky with the kids inside. He's like, any idea where they're headed? And Kim's like, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. And that's the end of the episode. I was like, okay. So, yeah, I mean, I was like, there's no way he's a Jedi. And one, I was like, is he even using the Force? I feel like there's something else. I don't remember if they said something, if there's some mention that there's no Jedi, but he's got to have the Force. It seems like he's using the Force, but just because he's Force sensitive doesn't mean he was ever a Jedi, especially if this is taking place after Return of the Jedi, I think. I think that's what they said. So it's fine. It's just, I'm not super crazy about the kids, and I think it's because I'm around kids all day at school. But I am interested in the story to see like where this is going to go. I'm really curious about why this planet's like hidden and all that. So we'll see. Okay, Silo Season 2, Episode 5, Descent. Man, things are like getting worse. And this is, I totally get you need this stuff for these shows. Otherwise, if everything's happy and it's not really exciting, but it's almost like disgusting. Not really disgusting, but whatever. So it starts off, people are yelling, they killed the judge and stuff like that. So there's a swarm of people. They're going down like the stairs. Knox, Shirley, Walker, and McLean, they're like hiding out in like this level, like off to the side of the stairs. Shirley's like, there's more people joining them. The mob people. Knox says that they can't get past them. And she's like, we have to. It's the only way home. McLean's like, well, maybe not. Walker's like, she's like, the porters? And she's like, you still mix up with them? And McLean's like, we just have to make it down 2 more levels. Sim's wife, Camille tells him, there's no way to argue it wasn't you. And Sim's like, I don't see how. He doesn't know the name of my listeners, but he knows the hallmarks. He clearly traced the campaign to impeach Meadows back to me. And then their kid's like, Mom. And she's like, in just a minute. He's like, Mom, there's a man in the kitchen. Bernard's there. So he just helped himself in. But he's like doing some stuff. Sim's like, can I help you with that? And Bernard's like, can't remember the last time I made my own coffee. I don't speak about Mayor Johns often, but she always made her own coffee. She said doing the everyday tasks of the ordinary people of the silo helped her feel connected to them when nothing else did. This job, you see, it requires me to have a different perspective than anybody. So he kind of bangs the coffee machine. So Camille, Sim's wife, she's like, oh, let me. She's like, this machine is finicky. So Bernard says that, he's supposed to be pretty good with machines. And then to her, he's like, you used to work with Rob, right? And she's like, I used to work for him, as he likes to remind me. And Bernard's like, does he discuss work with you? And, Sim's Robert, he's like right there. She's like, Robert finds I'm not much interested in that work anymore. I have my job in IT and I have my son. So he's just like, I think Sims is just like really pissed off. He's just silently standing there, just like staring. Then she continues, she's like, the pact says mothers are a vessel to deliver our children into the world, just as a silo is a vessel for the people. In our family, we take that to heart. And he's like, your family reads the pact together? I think you told me. And she's like, or Sim's like, every night. So Bernard's like, would you mind getting your copy of the pact for me? And she's like, sure. So at first I was like, does he want to see, is it like all worn and tattered or what? Or did he just want her to, leave them alone? So to Sims, he's like, you betrayed my trust, Rob. You made me do something I didn't want to do. You will no longer be head of judicial security. And then she comes back, he's like, but you're too valuable to sideline. So you'll take Mary's job. You'll be the judge. So this is why he wanted the pact. Place your hand on the pact and repeat after me. I, Robert Sims, do solemnly swear. So it's like, wait, what? He's going to be the judge now? Oh my goodness. So the four, Knox, Shirley, Walker, McLean, they're moving along. McLean asks at this counter, she's like, is Calvin here? And someone in the back's like, who's asking? So it's Calvin. And she's like, oh, I haven't seen you for a while. And she tells Walker and Shirley that she always stops seeing porters after a certain age because of knees. And Calvin's like, oh, you're going to lead with an insult? Woman in your position? She's like, you'll be lucky if any part of you makes it back down. And she says that's why they're there. She's like, we need a place to rest up, and I need transport home for me and my friends. He's like, it'll cost you. And she's like, I may or may not have a case of before times bourbon. And he's like, oh, it's going to take more than old booze. He's like, do you have anything that belonged to Juliet Nichols? So meanwhile, on the other silo, Juliet's working on a suit. Solo walks by, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I didn't get a firefighter's helmet, and I don't want to go back in the water. So I'm trying to see if my old one could connect. And she's like, hey, I was going to ask, your generator is under 100 levels of water, so how are the lights on? He's like, IT has its own power source, comes from the outside. And she's like, where from the outside? Just and just like waves his arm around. She's like, do you know why the generator failed? He's like, yeah, some judicial raiders had the bright idea of blowing up the groundwater pump on 144 to flood out mechanical, but they couldn't get it fixed before the water took up the generator. So the water just keeps, and he like motions like with his hands like going up. And she's like, right. He's like, do you think there's a way to stop the water from rising? She's like, your nearest groundwater pump is on 30 underwater, but you could run power to it. Maybe you could stop it from rising. And he's like, wait, you could stop it. And she's like, me? No, I don't have time. I have to do this. He's like, no, I don't have time. I'm running out of time. She's like, you're not running out of time. You have months, years to figure it out. 10. I have 10 months. And she's like, 10 months? Oh, I have days. He's like, yeah, but you don't know that for sure. And she's like, so why would I take that risk? He's like, in 10 months, the water's coming into IT. In 13, it'll be completely underwater. And she's like, no. She's like, stop. Look, this is what I need to do, and that is not working, okay? I can't connect it. Where are you going? And she's like, I need to go to the suit room and see if I can find a helmet that works. He's like, hey, wait. He goes after her. Bernard's like, where are they? So he's in the big TV spying room with all the monitors. So this dude tells him that they got off the stairs at 70, multiple cameras went down, and they don't know where they are. But he's like, I sent a team of raiders. They're disguised as citizens, and they'll be stirring up mobs from 60 down to 130. Bernard's like, you put a bounty on the two leaders? And he's like, 1,000 credits each. And then Bernard's like, have judicial erect a barricade at 130 in case they elude the mobs. And the dude's like, they won't get past my people. And Bernard's like, humor me, Mr. Armandson. I worry. That's my job. And in the interest of expediency, I will overlook the use of the phrase, my people. Let me be very clear. There is no manner in which the judicial raiders are yours. This other dude at a counter is like, a message just came in. They have a location for them on 70. So Calvin, he's looking at like this whatever tool thing, and he's like, how do I know that it's hers? And Walker's like, you don't, but I do, because I'm the one who gave it to her 20 years ago. I'm the one who fixed the hinge. And when she used to pry out frozen bolts, I told her not to do. He's like, I'll take it. Plus the 24 refrigerator coils you promised for your little stay. Throw in the old booze and we got a deal. So McLean reluctantly shakes and she's like, what's your plan? And Calvin's like, the grain bins. Everyone knows the mill in 59 breaks down every other week. No one will blink an eye at grain on its way down to the lower mills. And Shirley's like, fudge that. And he's like, I didn't promise a comfortable ride. And she's like, I'm not asking for comfort. It's just that we have a fourth, rather large. No way he'll fit. And Calvin's like, all I got. And then Shirley's like, what about the descender rig? And Calvin's like, not sure what you mean. And Shirley's like, sure you do. Walker, she's like, I don't. So Shirley's like, it's a powered winch and cable system. Calvin's like, it's against the pact. And Shirley's like, and you acquired it in some kind of pact-approved manner? He's like, we took it out of circulation is all. Porters have exclusive rights to move all siloed goods. People see something like that, they start getting other ideas. So then Knox bursts in, it's like, we got to go. Raiders are coming. Let's go. So then Shirley's like, you sent the message to Judicial? And Calvin's like, I was going to help you, I promise, but there's a price in your head, one that's too high to pass up, even for old friends. And Shirley's like, you SOB. McLean just like stares at him, and they're like, come on, McLean. Hank says the Billings. What I realize, I've been calling Billings occasionally Peter, but his name is Paul. So Paul Billings says Peter is Juliet's dad. So I'm always horrible with names. So Hank says to Billings, or Paul, Doc Fallon says that Kennedy hasn't been to see him. So Patrick Kennedy's the beard guy that helped Nichols, I think, through the firebomb or whatever. So then he's like, maybe Kennedy knows his reputation. Now, they best get assigned to go up top, and then they end up with what's left. So Paul's just sitting there quietly. Then Hank's like, what is it? He's like, I got a message from the new head of judicial security, Rick Amundsen. And then Hank's like, what happened to Sims? So Paul Billings is like, he's been sworn in as judge. And then Hank's like, where's Meadows? So Billings like, dead, murdered by the head of mechanical and his colleague. And Hank's like, Knox and Shirley? So Shirley's like, that didn't look like Jules' multi-tool to me. And Walker's like, hell no. It's like, it was mine. I have no idea where hers is. Then Walker says that they better split up so she and McLean can't keep holding them back and slowing them down. Knox like, the bounty is on Shirley and me. It's even odds who's going to get who killed. But they split up. So then McLean mentions to Walker how, she locked herself in her workshop for so many years and now nobody above 125 knows who she is. She's like, that'll work to her advantage. McLean, however, she's ahead of supply. Walker's, she starts to protest so basically McLean wants to split up again. But McLean says that, they're going to need her down, mechanical, probably now more than ever. So she tells her just to go. So Walker has no choice, so she gives her a kiss and then leaves. So Juliet's dad, so he's tending to someone with like a scrape on their leg, and he's like, just wash it, whatever, keep it clean. Then there's like several people that are injured, so it's from like the riots or whatever. So he goes, this dude with blood on his head, he looks at it, he's like, oh, it's not too bad. She's like, just keep the pressure on. Then there's this lady with like a baby and like a sling. She gives some dudes like some herbal stuff or whatever. And then he's like, oh, but my arm is, kind of clicking. It's like dislocated or something like that. And she's like, wait, she like says something like points, and then he like looks, and she kind of twists his arm and jams it back in. And he's like, whatever. So Juliet's dad, he's like, impressive technique for someone wearing a baby. So he introduces himself, and, she's like, oh, it's an honor to meet you. Because, she said her mother was a herbalist and her father was a drunk who lost a lot of fight. So she's like, nice to meet you. She's like, my name is Kathleen Billings. So it's Paul's wife. And so Peter is like, as in Sheriff Billings? And she nods. He's like, now I know why you're out here. Tending to the wounded is a good distraction. She's like, I can't sit at home. I get too anxious. And she's like, Paul was sent to mechanical. There was some kind of incident down there. And Juliet says, like, yeah, some kind of fire. And then a couple raiders come up, and they're like, Dr. Nichols, come with us now. So Sims is like washing his face, whatever. And then his wife is like, what's his plan, Bernard's plan? And he's like, have the silo take down the killers. If he succeeds, it'll be like a reset for him, like Juliet Nichols never happened. And she's like, you've run missions like that, raiders in plain clothes. And then Rob's like, big bounty on the fugitives. Mobs chase them down, maybe take the law into their own hands. And she's like, a sensitive operation like that takes experience, Rob. Amundsen's good. He was trained by the best, but he isn't the best. And what if he's not up to it? And he doesn't say anything. Then she's like, make the most of the job, Robert. So Bernard's sitting at his desk, knock at his door. Peter Nichols is brought in. So he thanks him for coming. Peter's like, if you think I know something about those mechanical folks, you're mistaken. And Bernard's like, no. It has nothing to do with that. I just thought that you might like some of your daughter's things. So it's like her multi-tool. He had it in his hand. He was like looking at it. And then it looks like her badge and like a watch, like sitting on his desk. So Bernard's like, under normal circumstances, these items would be put back into circulation, but these circumstances are far from normal. If these items were to be put back, I'm afraid they would be venerated, coveted, cause envy and dissension, and ultimately violence. It wouldn't be the only way that your daughter's memory has been distorted to fit the agenda of others. I heard that you were tending to people wounded in the riot after Judge Meadows' murder. That spirit of service gives me hope that you might be a bigger part of this movement to restore order to the silo and faith in the pact. And then Peter's like, what if I say no? And Bernard's like, why would you say no? So he's like, I just want to be clear. If I don't help you, what happens? There's nothing left for me to lose, is there? The silo has taken my son, my wife, and now my daughter. I was tending to the wounded out of a sense of duty to the silo. I was trying to reclaim some sense of professional integrity. I was trying to practice medicine without lies, without harm. All those birth control removals marked code orange. I see those young couples, their faces alight with hope that I know is unfounded. My profession is a sham. The silo took that from me too. For whatever reason, my daughter is dead. You can't control what she means to people. You can't control what she means to me. He picks up the three things and leaves. And Bernard just kind of glares back at him. So Juliet, she's like, so, Solo. He's like, yeah? That's not your real name, is it? No, Cole Myers is my name. Cole. He's like, I went to an event and they asked me, who are you with? And I said, I'm Solo. And Russell's kid was there and he overheard me say that and he thought it was my name, so the name stuck. But hey, what's in the name, right? And she's like, right. He's like, that's from your play, Romeo and Juliet, before they die. And she's like, before who dies? Romeo and Juliet. She's like, they don't die, no. He's like, yeah, they do. In ours they do. And she gets up and then she like curses. He's like, he asks her if she's okay. She's like, I don't know. I just feel, I'm tired. I'm good. He's like, are you hungry? She's like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. He's like, okay, but stay. I'm gonna get you some food. And she just kind of crouches down. So at first, and I still couldn't tell. It's like, wait, I thought she was faking just to get him to run off. But, she's like crouching down alone. So it's like, okay, she's not faking. So then we see this lady going over some paperwork with Sims, stuff that, that's been flagged. There's, recommendations from the mayor's office. When he reaches his decision, he cuts her off. He's like, Sharon, I've been in judicial for some years now. She's like, of course, Your Honor. We haven't been able to fabricate your signature stamp yet. So if you don't mind signing for the time being. And he just starts like tuning her out. And then he's just like standing there. And she's like, Judge Sims? And she's okay, whatever. So she leaves. He looks out the window where you can see like the stairs where they put the impeached Judge Sims or Judge Meadows, whatever. And then, he goes to the desk. There's like a file or something like that. He just kind of swats it away. So he's just like frustrated because, he doesn't want to be a judge. He wants to be the mayor's shadow. McLean sits. Then several raiders come up from her behind. And, so she knows it's coming. Bernard tells Amundsen, he's like, good job. He asks about the others. The two they put the bounty on are on the stairs. He has raiders out of uniform, just a couple levels below, and they're whipping up a crowd. So Bernard's like, let me know when you have them. He goes to his office. He tells his raiders, like, you can go. So Lucas Kyle's in there waiting. So that's the dude that helped, or that was mapped out the stars and now got sent to the mines. So Bernard's like, how's your time in the mines going? And Lucas is like, it's only been a day. He's like, well, you're still alive. That's good. Do you know the life expectancy of someone sent to the mines? He's like, no, sir. 5 years. So when Judge Meadows cut your sentence in half, it was a symbolic gesture at best. It's unlikely you'd survive your time there because he was assigned 10 years. He's like, you know why? He's like, because it's dangerous. And Bernard's like, rock falls, suffocation, crushing injuries, lost limbs, explosions gone awry. It's hard duty. I'm going to offer you some soft duty, Lucas. I have a project that requires your mind. On the day of Judge Meadows' murder, she relayed to me how you were able to take small, disparate bits of information about the lights in the sky and create a model that, between you and me, was not far off. Is that accurate? He nods. He's like, well, I have something that is also fragmented, and I need you to reconstruct it. He's like, you recognize it? He's like, this is the hard drive that Juliet Nichols showed you. He's like, you can tell me the truth. It won't put you in any additional legal jeopardy. So he's like, yes, I recognize it. And Bernard's like, I smashed it because it's a red level relic and it likely contains dangerous information. But now I no longer have the luxury of ignorance. I need you to find out what is on it. He's like, you can work from this office. And then he walks up to him. He's like, do you have any questions? He's like, come on. You must know that there are at least 3 people out there in the bullpen that can do this better than you. He's like, well, I know that you will work harder than anyone I can find out there because, well, you want to live more than 5 years. But what he should ask him is, okay, so if he does this, what does that mean for his sentence? If he finishes it, then does he go back to the mines? Or is he never answers that. Sims goes to the secret entrance, the TV screen rooms. He's just pushing his button thing, whatever, he's waiting. Amundsen finally comes out. He's like, Judge, is everything okay? And Rob's like, you tell me, the button isn't working. So he's like, we have everything handled here, Your Honor. He's like, Your Honor? Judge? Call me Rob like you have the last 10 years. And Amundsen's like, I'm trying to figure this out just like you. So Rob's like, I was just in my office, my new office, sitting behind the desk of a woman I worked for the last 15 years. Thought it might be a good idea to see how to search for the people who murdered her is going. So Amundsen's like, I'll make sure you get the relevant details on your desk in the morning. He starts walking back inside, then he stops. The suspects are still on the stairs. We're using the plan you put in place. So Knox and Shirley are running down. Then they meet a crowd. Someone's like, where are you headed in such a hurry? Shirley's like, hey, my husband and I were just headed down to see some friends. And one guy, he's like, well, that seems unwise, seeing how dangerous killers are on the loose. And then Knox is like, well, what are you all doing out? And he's like, we're concerned citizens. This other guy's like, who are you? Let's see some identification. So Knox, to Shirley's like, does the pact require citizens to show identifications to other citizens who are concerned? Or she's like, it does not. And then one of the guys like, that one's armed. So he's obviously lying, grabs Knox. People start reacting. All this stuff's going on. And then Sim's wife comes down and she yells like, stop. She's like, I think some of you know me and I know some of you too. You know who my husband is. What you might not know is his new position. Judge Sims wants these fugitives taken into custody. You want to kill them where they stand? Well, I do too. But justice for Judge Meadows doesn't only belong to us. It belongs to the silo. And everyone will watch these two go out to clean. So she takes out some cuffs and she kind of whispers to Knox. She's like, come with me or your greasy asses are getting strung up right here. Juliet's looking in this room with a flashlight. So she's still in some sort of pain. Something's going on. And she's looks through some little crates or something like that. She finds some papers. And there's you see a plan of a suit, whatever. There's a note on a clipboard. It says, whoever, quote unquote, borrowed helmet R352, please return. No questions asked. Now is the time to rise above the lawlessness, not participate in it. So Sim's wife tells Knox and Shirley that they'll be safe for a while. And Shirley's like, you're not taking us to judicial? So she's like, cameras still work on the stairs, but they're still out in the alleyway. When they see me headed back up alone, they'll send more raiders after you, maybe a lot of them. So wait until it's settled down to leave. There's a barricade on 130. No idea how you'll get through, but that's not my problem. So Knox is like, why are you helping us? So she knocks on this janitorial door. This guy opens up. He's like, Camille. And she's like, morning, Asa. You're going to work early today, and you're staying back at your ex-wife's tonight on 83. He's like, I just finished a night shift. Then she's like, then your boss will just think you're the hardest working plumber in the silo. And she's like, give me your keys. He's like, WTF, Camille? And she's like, when you hear about a bounty for the people who murdered Meadows, you'll ignore it so that I keep ignoring you. You understand? And he's like, can I put some pants on at least? And she's like, I don't know why you didn't reach for those first. Hank and Paul, our Billings, are talking. Hank talks about being conflicted while his friends are being hunted by like half the silo, like, half swearing to uphold the pact while having a condition expressly condemned by the pact. And then he's like, do they know? And Billings like, Sims knows. As head of judicial security, he made an allowance. As judge, Hank's like, I may have a line on Patrick Kennedy. So Calvin talks to Knox and Shirley. He's like, don't eat all my food in the fridge. And Shirley's like, well, it depends on what's in there. And Knox like, Shirley. So then Shirley asks him, how does Camille expect him to get back in without a key? And he's like, she doesn't. Like, if she wants me to have my key, she'll find a way to get it to me. But he's like, if I were you, I'd be gone before she gets back. I'm not helping her out of courtesy. I took you a-holes in because I'm afraid of her. You should be too. So he leaves. Shirley like lies down. Knox comments that, they have this guy living in a closet. And then he's like, do you think every department thinks that they're the ones that keep the silo running? And she's like, probably. He's like, I have said those same words, as a way to rally everyone in mechanical. And she's like, and it worked because it's true, even if the rest of the silo believes otherwise. She's like, you're a good leader, Knox. Mechanical would have gone to poop years ago if it wasn't for you. And he's like, I was wrong about what to do. I wanted to ask nicely, and now we're going to die for it. And she's like, we were damned from the beginning either way. But if we did it my way, we'd already be dead. So Billings and Hank, during the cafeteria, Billings asks him if he thinks Knox and Shirley killed Judge Meadows. Hank's like, honestly, since Jules walked, things have gotten out of hand. Shirley and a mob attacking my station, now Knox has teamed up with her. It's like, they have no respect for silo order. Do I think they killed Meadows? Not a fudging chance. Then he gets up, he's like, hey, Francis. He's like, hold up a second. He's like, you mind telling us where you're going with that meal? And she's like, home. He's like, but it's after midnight. Your shift started at 6 a.m. You tell me instead of sleeping, you're going to stay up and eat the same food that you've been slinging for the last 18 hours? And she's like, unless they pass a law against that, Hank, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So then Billings like, we know your history, Francis. Doris Kennedy was your aunt, and you sold some of the pills she stole. And she's like, you got some proof about that? Because you sure as fudge didn't 5 years ago. And Hank's like, whoa, Franny, we ain't here about that. We're here because we figure your Uncle Patrick isn't going to have much longer on hot meals. So why don't you let us deliver that? Sims comes to bed. Wife rolls over into his arms and asks how was his first day as judge. He's like, I signed where directed. I went to the watcher's room, tried to get some intel on the search. Armisen wouldn't let me in. He did tell me 3 of the suspects were still at large. And she's like, well, if you were in charge, they'd have been in custody hours ago. So at the barricade, there's just like this fence. There's like nails on the top, whatever. It's just like blocking the stairs. This lady kind of works her way to the front. I think we've seen her. I forget her name. She says that she lives on 132, and one of the raiders like, not tonight, you don't. And she's like, I work for the sheriff's department. Whatever this is, we weren't informed. And Walker's like nearby kind of listening. So the raider's like, this doesn't concern the sheriff's department. And she's like, look, if Judicial thinks they can keep citizens from their homes, and she's like, turn around and go back the way you came. So she scoffs. She's like, are you serious? You have no right to interfere with someone who is a member of the sheriff's department. So then there's more loud grumbling from both sides of the fence and everything like that. Knox and Shirley peer out the door, and she's like, the second we hit the stairs, they'll see us, and as soon as we close that door, we're locked out. Knox is like, we got to go home sometime. I say we hit the stairs and run like hell. She's like, yeah? He's like, yeah. And she's like, okay, but not down, up. He's like, what? She's like, trust me. Juliet looks through more papers, files, and she finds like an employee directory. Armisen says to Bernard, they were caught in a mob. A former raider stashed them on 73. We checked every residence, nothing so far, but I've locked down the trash chute. And Bernard's like, hold on, why did an ex-raider stash them on 73? And he's like, she was concerned that they might be strung up. So Bernard's like, who was she? Camille Sims. And Bernard's like, he's like, starts fuming, find those fudging mechanicals. Knox, so I don't know what's going to happen with Sims and with Camille, but Knox, he's like, how far up are we going? So they're just like running up the stairs now. Juliet enters an apartment. She looks in the closets and cabinets, and she sees like a portrait drawing of two people. Underneath the pictures, it says Solo and Tiny. Oh, because there's like three names on the list, and one of them was Tiny, and it said like what apartment, whatever. So Lucas, he tells Bernard, he's like, I was able to salvage very little. I found some fragments that overlap with the files in our database. Here's our silo map, so he's showing him on a computer, and I've been using this file to fill in some of the missing data from one of the fragments, which is also mapped. And now it differs from our silo in a few places. There are lines coming in from the outside the silo walls, and there's something on the IT level and something on judicial. And Bernard's like, any idea what they are? He's like, no. So they're probably, I'm assuming they're passageways or something like that. Because it seems like all the silos are connected somehow. And it makes sense if it's on IT and judicial. So he's like, no. He's like, there's something else. At the very bottom of the silo. And he's like, what is it? And Lucas is like, a tunnel? So Bernard's like, where does it go? I have no idea. So Bernard's like, well, keep working. You've earned another 24 hours outside the mines, Mr. Kyle. So it's like, wait, it's like, again, if that was it, does he have to go back? So he's like, sir, there was a folder also that I found. I was able to retrieve it uncorrupted. And look, most of the files in it were just these department memos, but one of them was different. He's like, how? It's like, it was a scan of a handwritten letter someone wrote his wife. He's like, who? Salvador Quinn. He's like, what did it say? So this is what Judge Meadows talked to him about. Well, it's a love letter, but then it kind of gets weird. It goes like, and he's like, it goes into code. And he's like, yes, that's exactly right. So that's what Meadows mentioned to him. Hank takes Billings to the secret tunnel area, like behind a sign. So they go inside the hole in the wall. Hank sees some blood on the wall, and then there's someone like leaning against, like up the ways a little bit. So they go like, Patrick Kennedy. And Billings like, don't move. And Billings like, good advice. It really doesn't feel great when I do. If you come any closer, I'm going to throw myself in this hole. So Billings like, we're staying put, but your wounds need treatment. And he's like, it's funny, with the guns, it looks like you're going to give me some fresh ones. So Hank's like, you're a fugitive seen firebombing my department station. You understand why we might be a little cautious. And Billings like, we can help you. And Kennedy's like, I don't trust you. That's why I'm down here in the dark, bleeding in a fudging hole. Hank says to Paul, he's like, there's a full med kit in the generator control room. So Billings like, go. And then Kennedy's like, that's what you're waiting for. Now that we're all alone, you shoot me and hope Deputy Longhair don't count the holes in me before he left. Billings like, we don't shoot people who don't pose an immediate threat. He's like, I pose an immediate threat. The things I know, you'd be better to leave. He's like, I can't do that. I took an oath. Part of that is rendering available aid. Rendering available aid? Don't you see? It's all a lie. Everything they told us, the pact, it's just to keep us in line. And we will never, ever find out the truth. Sims would shoot each one of us before he'd let that poop happen. And Billings like, you know Mr. Sims? Yeah, I know him. I helped Nichols out. I was gagged and bagged. Why do you think I'm still here? So Billings like, tell me. He's like, okay, sure. Just give me your gun. That's right, you can't, because you don't trust me. Look, if you're going to shoot me, all I ask is you do it right here, all right? And he points like the middle of his forehead. Please. Billings steps closer. He takes something out. He's like, I found this in Juliet Nichols' apartment in a book. So he hands him a piece of paper. He like unfolds it. I destroyed the rest. I couldn't tell you why I saved that. You tell anyone I have that, I'm finished. So he like looks at it and he's like, get me a doctor, not a deputy with a Band-Aid, and I'll tell you everything you want to know. No, I'll tell you everything you sure as fudge don't want to know. So it's night, it's quiet. Knox goes up behind Calvin, wraps his arm around his throat like in a chokehold. He's like, new deal. So then they have that device thing, and Shira's like, how long is a cable? And Calvin's like, guess you'll find out. So they have him like strapped to his chair. Knox takes a toolkit from him. He's like, this is not Juliet's, but fudge you if you think I'm going to let you sell it as hers. So they start to leave. I don't know if they gagged him. They must have, because he doesn't yell or anything like that. They start to leave, and then they pause at the door. So then they start going down the stairs with like the porter backpacks, and they run right past some raiders like unnoticed. They don't even like really look at them. The other guy, not Armisen, he's looking at the screens. So someone radios him to look for any groups of two, and he sees them. He's like, on level 92, there's 2 porters heading down. Juliet's looking at the drawing and a directory, and then Silo comes in. He's like, I got dinner. So she like flips the picture over, like, covers it. And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I was trying to track down a helmet that was stolen from the suit room. So I went to an employee's apartment trying to find it. Trina Samuels. So the document said that she was on level 17, nicknamed Tiny. Solo's like, Trina Samuels. And Juliet's like, yeah, she was Solo's girlfriend. And Solo's like, yeah, I haven't thought about her in a long time. Actually, I don't like thinking about her. Do you want chicken or beef? And Juliet's like, why are you lying to me? And Solo's like, I don't know what you're saying. So she holds up the portrait drawing. Solo, Trina, that's her. That's not you, is it? No, because this, and she's like, look at this. I found this. So he's just like covers up his face. Cole Myers, the IT shadow. That's the actual, I am the IT shadow. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't say those words to me. Don't you ever. I am Solo. I am the IT shadow. Do you hear? And he just like repeats it. And she whispers, she's like, okay, you're Solo. She's like, I'm sorry. She's like, I'm sorry. So she's still like in pain, like not looking good. He's like, you look terrible. You should really have something to eat. And she's like, I'm not hungry. I don't feel well. I'm going to lie down. So she leaves the room, but then she kind of hustles in the hall. So then again, I'm like, wait, is she faking? But she's like, no way. She just looks really bad. Knox and Shirley, so they're going to go down. They got the cable winch thing like on the railing. So they stop and look over the edge because he's like, is this far enough down? And she's like, I think so. And she's like, but will it hold your ass? That I don't know. So it's on the railing. Then a few levels up, mechanical, stop. And then they curse. Because I think I might be Armisen up there. So he saw them. So she's like, there's no break, is there? And Knox is like, there's a cable, and there's the end of the cable. So I think it's like hooked onto him, and then he's going to hold on to her or whatever. So he's like, or she says that at least we'll die in the down deep. So they hold hands, they jump, they're falling, the cable's going down, and then eventually it reaches the end of the cable. So they slam against the walkway. People start like reaching to help them up. Armisen, who's I'm not sure if it's him because it's just so dark. He's up above. He shoots the cable. It goes whoosh. It slashes like Knox in the back, like as a cable like whips down. And then the dude Armisen grabs the device like off the railing because it just sits there, and he like lifts it over. He drops it at them. Knox barely manages to get over the railing. Hits the edge of the railing and then falls. And Armisen curses. And people above the barrier see them. It's like, there they are, get them. So they like start shaking at the blockade gate, whatever. So then finally it gets knocked down. The stairs are clogged. There's more people fighting and pushing. Walker's like trying to make their way through it and everything. Bernard's watching the monitors. He's like cursing loudly. Armisen radios. He's like, they got through. He's like, I noticed. He's like, keep this channel clear. And then he goes, Sheriff Billings, do you copy? Sheriff Billings. And you hear, yes, Mr. Mayor. Sheriff, I regret to inform you that the fugitives for Mechanical just became your problem. I know as a loyal servant of the silo, I can count on you to bring them in. And he's like, of course, Mr. Mayor. You can always count on me to faithfully serve the silo and the pack. So he's with Hank, and I think they brought Patrick somewhere because I couldn't tell where they're at. Juliet's in another apartment. She gets like some lights working. But she's still looking with a flashlight. She just doesn't look well. She's like weak. She's dizzy. She's groaning. And then she pulls her sleeve up, and it's like bloody and infected. I don't remember. Or maybe it was when she was underwater. Something happened. So it must have been when she was underwater. And then so I'm assuming it's infected. Maybe that's why she's so dizzy and all this. So she like leans back and she looks under a bed. She finds the helmet. So she picks it up, she tries leaving. She just falls on the floor. She's out. And that's the end of the episode. So she needs some sort of antibiotic, but I just, I don't know if there's because does Solo know what to do? So I think this might be where Juliet dies, or not. And now it is time for the movie feature, which is Kraven the Hunter. And so I mentioned this at the beginning. I don't understand. I don't understand the thinking. So Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. They have their movie rights to Spider-Man. And included in this deal, they have the rights to characters immediately like in the Spider-Man kind of universe. They have the rights to all the Spider-Man villains, and Marvel doesn't. And I'm sure there's a lot of characters that are kind of gray area. Like, okay, Kingpin. Is Kingpin considered a Daredevil villain, or is this because he first appeared in Spider-Man, right? And so, some of the heroes, because we get Spider-Verse and so forth, all that. I just don't understand the idea, because, I still feel like there was something else we had. So we had Morbius. But have we only had Morbius and Madam Web, or those the only other movies? I feel like there's just like something else. And maybe I'm just thinking about Michael Keaton Vulture, because that was like kind of teased, but nothing ever came with that. They decided to do a Kraven the Hunter movie. And, what I have to say is, despite what Aaron Taylor Johnson, I mean, he's an amazing actor. I really enjoy him. I think I mentioned last week, like Bullet Train, he was great in that. And he's good in this movie, considering this movie is not great at all. On Rotten Tomatoes, I'm looking now, and I don't know if this is going to change probably, by the time this podcast is live, but when the early review scores, it was, I think it was at like 17%, and then went down to 16%. But now for the reviews, there's no score there. So I don't think that means, it didn't drop to nothing, because it would say that. But for some reason, I'm like refreshing, something's going on, and it's just glitching out. But we do have the popcorn meter, which is the audience score. So as of now, it's at a 70%. So that's not bad. So to be such a difference, and looking at like the critic reviews, Kraven the Hunter is a terrible movie, but you almost feel sorry for it. Like other Sony, so that was one. Like other Sony productions, the same vein, Kraven the Hunter alternates between entertainingly awful and just bad. Often the intended tone is anyone's guess. The only pleasures are faint, dumb, and guilty, and mostly, whatever. Dialogue is flat. Some of these are, dialogue is not great. A dud series wraps up in a major dud. How appropriate. See, that's just stupid, because, again, that's going along with like, oh no, this is the last Sony Spider or whatever movie. No, it is not. They will still do more if they can. They're just shifting their focus. And to say that's another one. The final nail in Sony's unintentionally hilarious Marvel universe. So it's like, I feel like these people don't really know. The thing, here's how I feel about Kraven the Hunter. So Kraven the Hunter is a character, I've said, I feel like I'm repeating, I posted this on Instagram. I always thought he was kind of a dork. He's a dude in like leopard print tight pants, which, whatever, that's fine. No offense to anyone who likes leopard print, like leggings or yoga pants or whatever. The issues I've always had with him is, one, he's a big game hunter. I can't support to go out, I'm going to get my rifle with my scope, and I'm going to shoot this defenseless animal from yards away in the safety of my camouflage rock or whatever, and then I'm just going to shoot him. That's how cool I am. It's like, no, there's what sport is there in that? Or we have hunters like assault rifles. I'm gonna go hunting with an assault rifle. That's just, and then you got like the poachers, which is a whole other thing. I mean, they're just completely despicable. So big game hunters, I do not support that. I don't feel whatever. It's one thing if you're hunting for food and for material. I don't eat meat, but if you're going to do that for your survival, whatever, that's one thing. But I don't support that. And so now you look at Kraven the character. He's this awesome hunter, and maybe even if he just hunts them and sets them free. But we've seen lots of images where he's got like the heads mounted on a wall or whatever, and so yeah, you got that. So his deal was he is such a good hunter, he can hunt down any animal. So he's cool. And then he gets put up to the task, I think it was J. Jonah Jameson. It's like, hey, I want you to hunt and capture Spider-Man. So he's like, here's my big challenge. I've caught every single animal. Now I'm going to catch the spider. I'm going to catch Spider-Man and all this. You have all that. It's like, okay, there could be something to that. But then most of the time, when you have Kraven Hunter fighting Spider-Man, what does he do? He uses that's supposed to be a blow dart gun. He shoots Spider-Man. He somehow ends up trying to drug him. And basically, he's trying to roofie him. He's trying to knock him out. It's like, oh, you're so cool. The only way you can defeat him is by drugging him. And okay, sure, Spider-Man has proportional strength of a spider. He has superpowers. He has spider sense. But still, the only way you can defeat Spider-Man is by drugging him. By shooting him with a dart, which, yeah, that should be kind of hard because he's got spider sense, but whatever. You can always cause distractions, do something, somehow, whatever. So that's his only advantage. I'm going to drug Spider-Man, dull his spider sense, or just make him weak and groggy so I can capture him. Throw a net over him. Ooh, I'm cool. So I just feel like Kraven is such a dork. But this movie, they take elements of it and they kind of change things a little bit. The weird thing, this is how these movies work, where I think it's kind of bizarre that you're doing these movies about a Spider-Man villain, but Spider-Man has absolutely nothing to do with the movies. Just like, Morbius, and, with Madam Web, there is kind of a connection to Spider-Man, very small, loose connection. But here, Kraven is not sent to hunt Spider-Man, so it's a totally different, it's a weird thing. And then what they try to do, because, okay, you have a movie about a guy who was a hunter. How's that even going to work? So they twist it a little bit. They change it. They're like, okay, he's not a villain. We're not going to make a movie about a villain. We're going to do a movie. We're going to make him an anti-hero. Blah, blah, blah. Basically, the whole story, they changed something. Russell Crowe's in the movie. I haven't mentioned that. He plays Kraven's dad. And then we also have Dimitri, who, if you know from the comics, he's a chameleon. So his little brother, he can change his voice. He can mimic, other people. Which is weird because then later he has a club and he sings like the people. So it's almost like, if I was watching that, it's because at one point he does a Tony Bennett song. And actually what I did, I was because he did one song and I was I know this song and I totally blanked on it. So I was trying to get, I was in the back of the theater and there was only a couple other people there. So I had the contrast down. I was I'm going to Shazam it. I missed the first song because it ended. Then he starts doing another song and it came up as Tony Bennett. If someone is watching it, I guess he's mimicking the voice. I'm totally on a tangent. He's mimicking the voice and he may mix it up, do it a little differently. But according to Shazam, thought it was Tony Bennett because it was Tony Bennett. Okay, so you got him, and he's not even necessary. But so Kraven, where am I at with this? So Kraven, he rebels against his dad because Russell Crowe's just a really evil, despicable, drug dealer, horrible guy. He doesn't want anything to do with that. And he was a extremely rough, cold father all what they got to be men, they got to go hunting. They lost her mom, and he like didn't even care. He was very cold about it. So Kraven or Sergey, he's like, I'm out of here, type of thing. And something happened. So we get his origin. He basically gets enhanced in a way, and it has to do with Calypso in a way. So we have Calypso here from the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man comic. Although this Calypso, she ends up being a lawyer. So she's not like the heavy, like fierce character that she is in the comics. The Kraven we have, because like in the comics, every once in a while, I need to take these roots to give me like more stamina or more strength. Basically, the Kraven we get in this movie, he is like super powered. He is enhanced. He has sharp vision. He can run like a crazy like I can't even think of what he runs like. He just and he's like constantly like scaling walls, like because he just finds like grips and just goes up there and so a lot of the action scenes, the way he moves, I was like, this is kind of cool because we're seeing this like superpower. This is what we want. If we're looking at comic book movies, we want to see enhanced people doing their stuff in live action. That's what makes it cool. And so Kraven does a lot of this stuff. So he's basically more powerful than comic book Kraven, and that's kind of cool in a way. So what he's started doing is he is a hunter. He's known as and we get some cool act. It's a R-rated movie. It is violent. It's bloody. He's going after people who are garbage, people who are horrible people, and that's his thing. That he hunts them and he basically, so it's like the Punisher. He's taking out the bad guy. He's taking out these horrible, despicable scumbags. But then, there's all these rivalries and like other stuff going on and people trying to get him and use him and everything like that. So other people we have in this movie is we have the Rhino you see in the trailer. And he's basically like this, like another sort of mob business dude. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but basically it comes out that Kraven, that the hunter, got this book and it has a list of basically scumbag people. So Rhino, the dude, he's like, well, I'm probably on that list, so he's probably going to come after me, so I'm going to go after him first. The other thing I will say, so now I feel like I'm just all over the place with this, and I don't even know if I should spoil this, but I guess I won't. As far as like the Rhino, so he's not in a Rhino suit, but there is if you saw the trailer, the Rhino is in here somehow with this. So there's something going on there. The way he becomes a Rhino is because of this professor in New York City, and that right there, I think I've said too much. And so when they said that, I was just like, holy crap! Did they just say that? And I kind of perked up. I was like, what? And that's where I think it's cool. Name drop, do something like that, and make it a little more exciting. Okay, that's fine. They also have the Foreigner in here, and I thought I knew who the Foreigner was. Does the Foreigner have? And I should look this up. I'm not going to because it's so late. But the Foreigner, the character in the movie, he's kind of a dork, but he has this one ability that gives him a huge advantage over people, and he's pretty cold, whatever. So that's okay. That's fine. But I feel like they invented or they made up this ability because I don't know if the Foreigner has this in the comic, unless I just either one totally forgot or just wasn't aware of this. So you have him in there, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. I think that's it. So you got Kraven, you got sort of Chameleon, you got Calypso, you got Rhino, you got the Foreigner. So that right there, there's 5 comic book characters. That's pretty ambitious. And I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anyone. It's the movie is kind of all over the place. It's kind of weird. It's kind of messy. There's some bad dialogue. Calypso, sometimes the way she delivers a line, it did not sound right. And the other weird thing is like just the changing of the accents. So Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's doing like the Russian accents all this time, and then boom, he drops into a pure American accent because he spent time in America. He went to school in America, but then he's also spent time in London, or his brother's living in London. They just keep switching. So I guess his go-to is an American accent because that's like his natural. But he can use other accents. I think they're pretty, accurate sounding or whatever. I'm not an expert on that. But it just seems weird because like with Calypso, she started off like in the whatever African desert somewhere, but she's like an American, and the fact like I mentioned she's a lawyer, it's just so this is really weird. But just how she talked to Kraven sometimes. There's like there was one point I forget what she said, but I remember they were standing by some stairs, and the way she just delivered the line was just like that's just I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. It just sounded like they were just reading from the script. Like I don't know. And I don't want to be mean or critique or anything because obviously I can't act for to save my life or whatever. But yes. But the Kraven parts, there were some cool parts. Sometimes when there's like this truck chase scene, some parts are a little like, okay, that's a bit much. But I don't know. I feel like there is some potential. And if you're looking at it as a piece of, don't get all hoity-toity. And this is, I don't understand what these critics are doing. And this is why I'm so glad that I don't write reviews, because I don't want to be all like, well, this is like this, or this could have been better, or the lighting here, or oh no, the CG was a little shaky, this part. It's like, who cares? Suspension of disbelief. It is based off a comic book. It's not real. It is pure fake. And yeah, it should look as cool as possible. But you're going into this movie, you're like, hey, entertain me for a couple hours. Here's my money. And that's what you look at. And you shouldn't be like over analyzing and saying, how does this compare? This isn't a grand masterpiece. They should be ashamed because this isn't as good as this or whatever. It's like that's irrelevant. And so yeah, we have all these awesome comic book movies. So of course it's you're going to compare them all. I just don't see what the point of that is. So I went into this because one, it is not a Spider-Man movie necessarily. They could do that, like if they ever did, like let's do a Sinister Six, bring all these characters together. Okay, that's a different story. But as it is now, this is completely separate from Spider-Man. There's no mention of him whatsoever. You don't see him swinging by. You don't see anything about that. Well, yeah, you don't see Spider-Man anywhere. Just say that. You just go in and enjoy it. This is a guy that hunts people. He's got these abilities. He's enhanced, and he just does some crazy moments. He's running down the street, chasing a car, and trying to like pound his bulletproof, SUV. And Aaron Taylor, he's like pretty ripped and everything. So and just the way he scales buildings and that, it's just like he's like a madman going up there. So I thought some of it, it may not be totally accurate, but again, who cares? It was fine, but it's a shame that it couldn't have been a little more polished and maybe a little, and the whole premise, like why this and that, like going to back and forth, and it's a little, I don't want to say immature, whatever, childish, but whatever. I mean, I thought there was some cool moments. I was pretty entertained. It's better than Morbius. Morbius, I mean, I don't even remember much. I feel like I'm just like blocking things out from that movie. And Madam Web, wasn't great. I didn't think it was as horror. I did not like the villain. He bothered me, but I think there was some okay parts in that. So, but then everyone's like, oh, this movie is going to do worse than Madam Web and worse than Morbius. But it's like, whatever. So the movie has $110 to $130 million budget. Do we have any projection? It's projected to gross 13 to 15 million it looks like in just the United States, and maybe United States and Canada. So that's not worldwide. Is it only playing in, because it says it grossed $2 million. So for the Thursday night previews, it made $2 million in the United States and Canada for a worldwide total of $2 million. So maybe it hasn't opened to other countries yet. I don't know if it will. Yeah. Future. J.C. Chandler was open to making a film series centered on a character, with the final installment to be based on Kraven's last hunt. It's obviously very tragic and sad, but the main character we're trying to create is one who could realistically, if this film is a success, end with the last hunt. Similarly, Aaron Taylor Johnson expressed interest in a Sinister Six crossover movie. In December 2024, following the projected financial failure of the film, it was reported that Kraven the Hunter would be the final film in Sony's Spider-Man universe, ending any chance for a sequel. But again, it sounded like they're saying for now. So, I mean, and it's just, okay, so maybe these solo movies don't work. A Sinister Six movie could work. Or have these villains in a actual Spider-Man movie instead of doing, okay, I'm done. I don't know, I think Kraven the Hunter is worth watching. I like Kraven the Hunter better than Gladiator 2. You know, Gladiator 2 is probably a better made movie, but I just found the story, I don't know about that. I mean, the story in Kraven, it's questionable. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I should just shut up. And I thought it was a fine movie. I'm glad I saw it, even though I do not care for Kraven the Hunter as a character. I think he's just a dork. But I think Aaron Taylor Johnson made it work, and it was cool the way they enhanced him, with the way they made his character come to life. So that's all I'll say. So it's up to you if you want to see it or not. I think it's worth checking out. And with that, thank you for checking out the podcast. Big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. And I do comic book off of mind topics or just random topics, talk about old comic books. I really don't know what I'm going to do this week. Yeah, we'll see. I might go back to Amazing Spider-Man at some point. I might put a pause on What If, because feel like I've been doing What If for a while, and I want to go back to like the classic Spider-Man comics, because it's been a while since then. There's another off of mine that I haven't really given it much thought, because I feel like that's cheating. The whole point of the off of mine is I talk about whatever just as I think about it. That may or may not always be the best way, but I feel like I said, I feel like it's cheating if I try to map it out, have an outline, or talk about that. So we'll see if I do that. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or one. That's ko-fi. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What's going to be next week? Next week in theaters, we have, was it Mufasa? I'm not going to see that. I haven't seen a live action Lion King, and I don't feel a need to see live action Mufasa origin, whatever. Lion King was a great animated movie. I still remember seeing it in a theater, in a very large theater, and it was just the sound and the visuals were just really good. I don't need to see it again. You know, maybe if I had a younger kid, my daughter's not like, hey, Dad, let's go see Mufasa. So I don't even know if she's seen The Lion King. Maybe she has, maybe probably not. So I'm not going to see that. Other things opening up is Sonic 3, Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm open to that, but I never saw Sonic 2. When Sonic 2 came, I saw Sonic 1. I talked about Sonic 1 on this podcast. I didn't see Sonic 2 because it opened up against something else. I do not remember what. And but then I was like, well, I can watch it, before. But I don't know if people want to hear about Sonic 3. I mean, what is there to talk about? What could I talk about it? Because if I'm, I just don't feel like if it's worth, because if you're like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and that's great, because like the movies look like they could be fun, and Kristen Ritter's in this one, so that's a plus. But because I'm not like enamored with the franchise or anything like that, I don't want to watch it and be like, it was fine. And if someone else like, this was really cool, because that's a bummer. No one wants to hear that. What I think I'm going to do instead is there's a movie that is out now on Netflix with Taron Egerton called Carried Away. So maybe you've seen it already. And I know it's going to be a little, late, because I could have watched it, or I could have tried to watch it and talked about it on this podcast, but there's no way that could happen. But I think that's fine, because Wicked was 2 weeks later, and that podcast episode did better than some of the other ones. Because like I told you, I'm always looking at the numbers. So thank you for listening. Thank you for give me numbers to look at. So I think we're going to do that, because Taron Egerton, he is an amazing actor. Even like that, have you seen that movie Tetris on Apple? That was good. Blackbird on Apple TV Plus. I mean, that is an amazing series. Ray Liotta's even in that, and Stingray from Cobra Kai, I forget his name. He was phenomenal in that. So I think that will be the movie feature next week. Will be Carried Away. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. And then the week after that should be Nosferatu. So thank you for putting up with everything. I got one more crazy week, and then 2 weeks of winter break, which I can try to catch up, and it's going to fly by. And already I'm being pulled in different directions, like I'm losing prep time, but that's how it goes. And I got so much grading, and I have to do report cards, and thank you for listening. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're finding time to do fun things. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.